Chapter 1848. In the chat group, when Jing Tian heard Yi Fan's words, a smug smile appeared on his face. Eternal Peace Pawn. F***K, Fan Yi, don't look down on me. Not long later, let's find a chance to fight? See if I don't beat you up until your teeth fall out. Fan Yi, oh come on. Shrouding Skies World. Yi Fan pinched his chin and looked at this guy. It seemed like this guy must have gotten quite a lot of benefits since he dared to be so arrogant. Although he said no, Yi Fan actually wanted this guy to spit out more things. So confident. Yi Fan thought. Fan Yi, I refuse. Little guy, I don't want to bully you. Hee, you are the weakest in our group. I don't want to bully the weakest. Otherwise, the ancestor god will blame me for bullying the weak. Oh right, I have been plundering the sects and sacred grounds over here these few days. I found some more basic cultivation technique. Do you want me to impart them to you? Eternal Peace Pawn. I don't want them. I will use my points to exchange for them later. I won't even look at those that are less than 10,000 points. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Wow, seems like you have really become rich. How many points did you get? During these few days, I barely managed to get 10,000 to 20,000 points. There is a type of flame in the reward pool that I really want, but it is too expensive. I have to work harder. Hard what? JPG Fan Yi. Little Jade, you only have 10,000 to 20,000 points? That won't do. I have already accumulated over 50,000 points. When Jing Tian heard this, he was slightly startled. It has only been a few days and they have already accumulated so many points? Jing Tian clicked his tongue. However, it still isn't as much as me. Ghostly, you guys have accumulated so many points. Cough cough, I won't talk about it, I won't talk about it. Borrow from the heavens for 10,000 years. Ghostly, Fan Yi, you must be bragging. I have only accumulated 50,000 to 60,000 points during these few days. Only a great empire was able to do this. How can you accumulate so many points? Even if you are developing believers, it shouldn't be so fast, right? They were all very clear. Fan Yi had just entered the other world. Wasn't his growth a little too fast? No one in the world can turn their backs on me. That's possible. The world that Fan Yi is in is extremely vast and different from old brother 10,000 years. In such a vast and boundless world, there were many living beings. Even in a single region, there could be hundreds of millions of them. Fan Ye's sacred body of the ancients is close to completion after being bestowed by the ancestral god. It won't be a problem for him to sweep through an entire region. The speed at which he develops believers might be much faster than ours. Fan Yi, old brother Chao is still the one who understands me the best. So, how much are you now? No one in the world can turn their backs on me. Barely 80,000. Fan Yi, F***CK. There are so many of them. She Ancient Emperor Jade. So, am I holding everyone back? Woo. Li Feiyu. Brother Ghostly was a little embarrassed just now. Maybe he didn't accumulate much. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Hey, you're right. Ghostly, big brother Ghostly, how many points have you accumulated? Cute. JPG. Ghostly, Nan Xian Celestial Lord. Everyone, don't ask any more. I just took a look. In the prize pool, the ancestral god has set up a ranking. The number of points is written clearly on it. Everyone in the group was stunned. They immediately looked at the prize pool announced in the group. Sure enough, there was a real-time leaderboard next to the prize pool. Ranked first was naturally Su Fan, the Nan Xian Celestial Lord who had obtained 100 points previously. However, the second place was not Li Feiyu, who had been given 100,000 points. It was Ghostly. He had close to 200,000 points. The third place was Li Feiyu, who had 120,000 points. The fourth place was the waiter of the Yangon pawn shop. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this. Especially Xiao Sun. She Ancient Emperor Jade. The clown is actually myself. JPG. Woo woo woo, Big Brother Ghostly, you don't usually speak in the group. How did you get so many points? How did you do it? Fanyi. Damn, Brother Ghostly, you're too good. How did you do it? Don't tell me that you gave some important treasure to the ancestral god. I don't believe that you have special treasures like Li Feiyu and the Nanxian Celestial Lord. Ghostly said, That's not it. It's mainly because an immortal suddenly descended to the mortal world. I felt that something was amiss, so I followed this immortal to the world where immortals ascended to immortality to observe for a while. After I returned, I told the ancestral god everything. The ancestral god gave me more than 100,000 points. Adding the 10,000 to 20,000 points that I accumulated previously, I barely have this number. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Fan Yi. I'm envious. Borrowing another 10,000 years from the heavens. This is fate, can't betray me. This information is worth more than 100,000 points. It seems like it has something to do with those invaders. Ghostly, yes. In fact, I only accumulated 10,000 to 20,000 points. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade, about the same as you. Fight Break the World. Xiao Sun sighed. Look at all of them, they're all so powerful. I've really embarrassed everyone in the group. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Little fellow, how did you get your 100,000 points? Yong'an Pawn Shop's little fellow. Boss you, did you notice me? Picking nose. JPG. Just like Big Brother Ghostly, I've reported about the invaders. Not only that. At this point, Jing Tian paused. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Don't finish your sentence. Fan Yi, hurry up and say it. Li Feiyu. The ancestral god personally appeared? Ghostly. Are the invaders very strong? I went to the world where the immortals live. Any random gatekeeper seemed to be stronger than me. However, I'm confident that I'll surpass them very soon. I definitely won't embarrass the ancestral god. Borrowing another 10,000 years from the heavens. Little fellow, after becoming a believer of the ancestral god, it seems like you've become arrogant. You actually dared to keep everyone in suspense. If you were with me, I would definitely tear you into pieces. Can't betray me. They've started fighting? Yong'an Pawn Shop's little fellow. Damn, Brother Chow, you're very accurate. That's right, they've started fighting. After all, they've started fighting and they've been fighting for a long time. This invader claimed to be a god. You guys don't know the situation at that time. The entire world was completely dark. I could only feel endless terror. It was like a nightmare. The world was about to be destroyed. I really don't know how the ancestral god fought with this god. Fan Yi, send a video? The number of times the ancestral god killed enemies is extremely few. I want to see it. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Me too. Hurry up and send a video. Nan Xian, Immortal Sovereign. I also want to see how a supreme expert like the ancestral god fights. I've seen it once before. It was in the world where the 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade is. However, it's too fast. I really can't see anything. Chapter 1849. Yangon Pawn Shop's Employee. Then I guess you guys won't be interested in it this time. The video is dark. There's nothing in it. Although I recorded it in time. Jing Tian really recorded the video back then. To be precise, after summoning the ancestor god, he realized that he should record the video to commemorate it. After all, the ancestor god had personally descended. But the battle that followed made Jing Tian feel helpless. Really, the scene that was recorded was completely dark. In fact, of course, it was impossible to record it. This chat group was established by Yan Qingjue. The video recording function in the group was based on Yan Mingyao's ability to kill gods. She recorded all the scenes that she could observe. But the battle between Wang Feng and Yuan had simply transcended the dimension of that world. It had risen to the level of the entire unit universe. Not to mention the battle scene, it was impossible to even record a person's figure. Under everyone's strong request, Jing Tian uploaded the video. Soon, everyone finished watching it. As expected, it was completely dark. It was as if the entire world was empty. They couldn't see anything at all. But because it was from the first-person perspective, they could feel the oppression. The oppression of destruction. Among them, the one who felt it the most was the Nanxian Celestial Venerable. Among this group of friends, he had a very high position in his previous life. That destruction in the darkness, that powerful aura, it's definitely, Su Fan murmured, it's definitely the god that attacked our universe back then. He might be much stronger. Because before that god attacked, the entire universe wouldn't be destroyed like this. It transcended the dimension of time and space. The aura that destroyed everything caused the universe to fall into darkness. Such a powerful god actually invaded the world where this employee is from? He felt that it was quite impossible. But Su Fan wasn't interested in this. He was more interested in the result. Fan Yi. Although I can't feel what happened, I can feel the oppression and fear of the destruction of the universe. It's really scary, ghostly. It's indeed very scary. This kind of destructive darkness, compared to the aura that I felt in the world of the immortal, it's simply too weak. Too she ancient Emperor Jade. Little employee, the ancestor god one, right? The waiter from Yangon Pond said, aren't you talking nonsense? Of course, the ancestor god one. Moreover, he seemed to have won easily. However, to be able to make the ancestor god take action and fight with him, this god is probably not an ordinary one. Fan Yi, that's not right. There are so many powerful invaders, and you reported such news. Even the ancestor god gave ghostly more than 100,000 points. Given this god's strength, the value of this information should be extremely high. He shouldn't have only given you 100,000 points. The points awarded for the God Hunt event were mainly based on the intruders. Yong and Pon's waiter. Ahem, I didn't want to tell you. Since you've discovered it in advance, then I won't say anything. Fan Yi. The ancestral god must have bestowed you with something good? No matter what, it should be at least 100,000, right? Could it be some kind of treasure? Holy body? Cultivation method? F***ck. Could it be the power of the origin? The waiter of Yong and Pawn shop was speechless. Jing Tian couldn't help but curse. This Fan Yi was really good at guessing things. How could he have guessed this correctly? Two she ancient emperor's jade. Seems like it's true. Origin. TSK. Such a good thing is worth more than 1,000,000 points. It seems like this god is very powerful. However, little waiter, even if he gave you such a good thing, you won't be able to use it. Nanxian Immortal Sovereign. Little waiter, although you've obtained the power of the origin, you mustn't use it recklessly. You have to comprehend it more. This power will allow you to surpass the world you're in a very short time. Yong and Pawn shop's waiter. Everyone, don't worry. The ancestral god has already instructed me. So, Fan Yi, let's pick a date? Fan Yi. Ahem, about that, I still have something to do here. I'll come down first. After saying that, Yi Fan went offline. What kind of joke was this? This waiter already had the power of the origin and a lot of points. It was estimated that his strength would soon soar like a rocket. Who could withstand that? Let's play it safe first. After I subdue all the holy lands and sects, I'll exchange them for some good stuff. Yi Fan thought to himself. Douluo Divine World. While the chat group was in a heated discussion, Wang Feng came to the Divine World first. When he went to the Xianxia World, he wanted to ask Long Xie to go with him. But later, he sensed that the situation on Jing Tian's side wasn't simple. So he came first. As expected, it was fortunate that he came first. This evil spirit should be a great supplement for Long Xie. It can be considered one of the strongest powers in the immortal sword world. Wang Feng pondered. This evil spirit wasn't the same evil spirit as before. This evil spirit had absorbed countless evil thoughts. After becoming the evil sword immortal, it was beaten back to its original form by that abyss. But in reality, this thing had already developed a powerful intelligence. It was a supplement for Long Xie. Boss, how long has it been since you came to the Divine World to visit us? Douluo Divine World, King City. Long Xie and Wang Feng were sitting opposite each other in a tavern in the Divine World. This tavern was founded by the wine god of the Douluo Divine World. It provided entertainment for the gods of the Divine World. Don't I have something important to do here? Have you forgotten about the two gods from outside the realm? I, your master, have accepted the challenge. If I lose in a few dozen days, you'll have to wait until your next life to see me again. Wang Feng tossed the evil spirit to Long Xie. Here's a supplement for you. Long Xie had completely transformed into a handsome and devilish man. His hair was blood red, which was comparable to Demon Lord Chong Lu's. Hey, this thing isn't bad. Long Xie's eyes lit up. You brought it here? It has the same taste as me. Not bad, not bad. This is much better than the resentment and evil energy of the gods in this world for tens of thousands of years. Such a pure evil spirit, although very weak. Although it's weak, it'll definitely taste wonderful. With that, he slapped his mouth. His normal mouth immediately turned into a bloody maw. He directly swallowed the evil spirit from the immortal sword world. Then he burped. By the way, boss, since you're here, I have something important to tell you. I couldn't find any news about you before. Now is the time. Long Xie's eyes lit up. Long Xie's eyes lit up. You brought it here? It has the same taste as me. Not bad, not bad. This is much better than the resentment and evil energy of the gods in this world for tens of thousands of years. Such a pure evil spirit, although very weak. Although it's weak, it'll definitely taste wonderful. With that, he slapped his mouth again. His normal mouth immediately turned into a bloody maw. He directly swallowed the evil spirit from the immortal sword world. Then he burped. By the way, boss, since you're here, I have something important to tell you. I couldn't find any news about you before. Now is the time. Long Xie said. Chapter 1850. Dragon God Realm? Wang Feng was slightly taken aback. The Douluo God Realm didn't seem to have any records of this world. Wang Feng hadn't even heard of Shi Yu's Dragon God Realm before. Did this have something to do with the Dragon God? The Dragon God was an existence that existed in the Douluo God Realm for countless years. That's right. Long Xie looked serious. Boss, you might not know this, but it has something to do with the Dragon God's origins. Back when the Dragon God was defeated, he wanted to preserve the bloodline of his descendants. In fact, before he invaded the God Realm, that old bastard Dragon God created the Dragon God Realm just to be safe. He left many of his descendants in the Dragon God Realm. Some of the elites followed the Dragon God to the Douluo God Realm and died. After that, the Dragon God's essence turned into two Dragon Kings. However, the Dragon God Realm didn't disappear. After the Dragon God's defeat, the Dragon God Realm went missing. I once discussed the Dragon God Realm with the Silver Dragon, but she didn't know much about it. The Golden Dragon King was captured and sent to the Dark Demon Realm a long time ago. Boss, do you know anything about the Golden Dragon King? Long Xie asked. Wang Feng fell into deep thought. Wang Feng knew very little about the Golden Dragon King. It was mainly because he didn't pay much attention to it. Wang Feng could only vaguely remember that it happened when he had just ascended to the God Realm. Back when they were traveling to the Void Origin Sky Domain, Shang had told them that they had captured the Golden Dragon King, and that they were trying to lure the Silver Dragon King here using their Dragon God Essence powers to gather the two Dragon Kings who had inherited the Dragon God Essence. They wanted to create a new Dragon God. That was why they captured the Golden Dragon King, who should have been suppressed and killed. They took him away. When Wang Feng went to the Dark Demon Realm, he didn't hear any news about the Golden Dragon King. After that, the silver dragon obtained his blood essence and broke away from the dragon god's essence. After that, he stopped paying attention to the golden dragon king. Wang Feng immediately sent a voice transmission to Yan Qingjue and asked her about the golden dragon king. However, to Wang Feng's surprise, Yan Qingjue told him that the golden dragon king had escaped into a wormhole during the battle between Emotiance and Wang Feng after being captured by the dark demon realm. There was no trace of him. It seems you don't know either, boss, Long Xie said in a low voice. The golden dragon king went to the dragon god realm. Amen. Wang Feng frowned slightly. So be it. It's just the dragon god realm. Today, even if 100 more dragon gods came, they would be nothing to me. The strength of the dragon god when he was still alive was really a far cry from the current him. So what if it was the dragon god realm? Boss, it might not be that simple. Long Xie shook his head. The dragon god is nothing to you, boss. However, a few days ago, a commotion broke out in the void element sky territory, and several level 2 and level 3 gods died in the god realm. Even first-tier gods and several elemental gods had died. Do you still remember that ice god Shui Bing-er? Yes, I do. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Shui Bing-er and Ning Rongrong were the ice and water gods, and the two of them were extremely powerful together. However, the Crimson God Fox Emperor found an excuse to take them away. However, the Crimson God Fox Emperor only took Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing with him. He didn't take Shui Bing-er with him. Shui Bing-er was injured during that commotion, and many of your friends and brothers in the Douluo world were seriously injured as well, Long Xie said. Tang San wanted to talk to you about it, but you weren't around during this time, and he had other things to do, so he didn't bother you. Also, the Douluo god realm absorbed a group of extremely talented gods because of your plan in the dark demon realm. Even now, the Douluo god realm hasn't been hurt. Is it because of the dragon god realm? Wang Feng asked. Yes. The dragon god realm sent some dragons to invade the Douluo god realm in the name of avenging the dragon god. Long Xie paused for a moment before continuing. How many dragons did you send? Hearing this, Wang Feng knew that the dragon god realm wasn't as simple as it seemed. The Douluo god realm was a lot stronger than before. The main reason was because of Shiyu. Shiyu, as the heavenly Tao, had become stronger, and the upper limit of the Douluo god realm had increased. Most importantly, the dark demon realm and the god realm were at peace. After all, the two heavenly Tao were on the same side, and they had a special relationship with Wang Feng. Only two, Long Xie said slowly. Two. Wang Feng thought for a few seconds. It seems that the dragons in the dragon god realm are very strong. Compared to you, they are very strong. They call themselves the descendants of the dragon god, or the infinite true dragons. They are the origin of all dragons. In any case, they are just so damn awesome. Long Xie spat on the ground. I didn't think that the dragon god's posthumous children would have such a day. There must be some other reason. The origin of all dragons? Aren't they just the bastards the dragon god gave birth to after sowing seeds everywhere? They might not even have the dragon god's true blood. Long Xie cursed loudly. It was obvious that he had been humiliated. Wang Feng smiled and asked, What? Were you humiliated? Long Xie snorted coldly. Then Tang San and I worked together to beat them away. Qilin Lord Bingmu said that it was boring to stay in the god realm, so he went to the dragon god realm to check it out. I also want to check out the situation and get back at them. I understand. Wang Feng nodded. The dragon god realm might be a little different. It might be related to the divine systems universe. That world might be adopted by other gods as their spawn. Otherwise, a small world created by the Golden Dragon King and the Dragon God wouldn't have developed so quickly. Even if it wasn't related to the divine systems universe, it had to be related to other universes. But as far as Wang Feng knew, the divine system's universe was the only one in the multiverse. Even so, the divine system's universe was too vast. If you want to go, Wang Feng pondered for a few seconds. With Long Xie's current strength, he could already reach the level of a universe-level lifeform. The only thing he lacked was the amount of origin energy and the will of the universe. Tang San was in the same situation. As for the other gods, they were still a little lacking. "I'll give you an origin energy," Wang Feng said. "The Dragon God realm might be the key to your breakthrough." After that, Wang Feng pointed at Long Xie's forehead and injected a beam of light. He had absorbed this origin energy from the blood spirit god's spear during his battle with the three gods of the Crow divine system. It was called the Blood Devour Origin. The origin energy was closely related to the will of blood. Chapter 1851. Unfortunately, the blood spirit god's will of blood was only a projection. It wasn't the true will of blood. However, the origin he had absorbed from the blood spear was very powerful. It was very compatible with Long Xie. Long Xie's current path was very special. He was somewhat similar to the evil sword immortal's true form. But he was much stronger. That was because he had absorbed the resentment and evil thoughts of countless gods from a certain era in the Douluo god realm. He had not comprehended the pure power of the origin, but by absorbing this special energy and adding it to himself, his combat power had reached the peak. With this origin power, Long Xie would be able to absorb it. Long Xie would be able to touch the true will and become a universal life form. Wang Feng also used the origin tribulation origin power to absorb the origin power. He immediately used the primordial chaos origin power to search for traces, repair and strengthen the origin power. It was even stronger than when the blood spirit god used it. A power at the level of origin energy needed to be constantly comprehended. Moreover, depending on the source obtained, there would be some flaws and imperfections, and it would not be perfect. After Wang Feng gave the blood devour origin power to Long Xie, he immediately went to the Sea of Reincarnation to ask Shiyu about it. "You know?" Shiyu fell silent. She seemed a little surprised by Wang Feng's question. "Long Xie told me." "What's the situation in the Dragon God realm?" "You know about the chaos in the void dimension, right?" Wang Feng asked. "It's not a big deal." Shiyu avoided Wang Feng's gaze. She turned her back to Wang Feng and showed him her graceful back. "You just need to focus on the God realm battle. Don't worry about it." Hearing those words, Wang Feng knew that there was something fishy going on. "Well, I'm going to do something about it. I already told Long Xie to go first." Wang Feng took 2 steps forward and said indifferently. Shiyu turned around and sighed. "The Dragon God realm isn't as simple as it seems. Your friends might be in danger if they go there. They'll definitely take up a lot of your time. The God realm battle isn't far away." "Then why don't you tell me more about the Dragon God realm?" Wang Feng asked. "If you want to talk about it." Shiyu fell silent for a moment. "Then I'll have to start with the Dragon God. When the Dragon God ascended to godhood and entered the divine realm, he launched a divine war in an attempt to seize control of the Douluo divine realm. He fought against the 5 divine kings of the Divine Realm Committee. Unfortunately, he fell. Wang Feng listened quietly. "It was like this. The origin of the Dragon God is not simple," Shiyu said softly. "Let's hear it." Wang Feng waved his hand and the water gathered to form a seat. Wang Feng sat down and pointed to the opposite side, indicating that they should sit down and talk slowly. Shiyu glared at Wang Feng. "Aren't you anxious now? The War of the Gods is only a few days away. You still have the mood to listen to my gossip?" "I want to hear it," Wang Feng said. Shiyu raised her head, refusing to look at Wang Feng. "The Dragon God isn't a creature from the divine realm, nor is he a creature from the Douluo continent. He came from the dragon race of another universe, called the Immeasurable Dragon Race. In that universe there were only dragons. It is also known as the Myriad Dragons universe. I don't know much about the 10,000 Dragons universe. However, when this dragon god came to this universe, he was still very weak. As for the reason why he came, I don't know. But he knew of my existence. Oh! Wang Feng said in surprise. You are the heavenly Tao of the Douluo divine world, how could he know of you? By the way, you are known as the Genesis divine source outside? That shouldn't be. Even those divine kings have never seen you before, so they don't know. They only know that you are the Genesis divine source. Shiyu looked a little angry and said slowly, it's because the creation god who created the Douluo divine world was a universe-level creature. I don't know how that dragon god got involved with this creation god, but he knew of my existence. After he came here and became stronger, he said that the creation god had given the Douluo divine world to him. Everything in the god realm belongs to him, and that includes me, Luo Yunyang said. However, when the creation god created the Douluo divine world, he didn't manage it and left very early. He didn't know how the Douluo divine world developed. Perhaps in the creation god's memory, the Douluo divine world was just a remote place in this universe, nothing much. Shiyu sighed and said, but after countless years, the Douluo divine world had the heavenly Tao, and I appeared. Later, it slowly gathered life and cultivated powerful life forms. It had developed to a different level, so how could he give it away casually? He wanted to contact me at that time, but I didn't agree and ignored him. Later, he launched a war between the gods, wanting to seize control of the divine world. Speaking of this, Shiyu couldn't help but shake her head. Unfortunately, he misjudged the strength of the divine world, and there was the war between the gods later. After hearing this, Wang Feng was enlightened. But when I was cultivating the yin and yang intersection source with you, your soul didn't seem to have any records of this, Wang Feng asked. At this point, Shiyu's expression was a little uncomfortable, and Qing Shan's brows were creased with a little embarrassment. She said indifferently, this kind of thing was naturally excluded from my soul's memory. Do you think I still have memories of it? Wang Feng, that makes sense. The dragon god created the dragon god realm because of the golden dragon king. That golden dragon king is different from the silver dragon. Not only did he inherit the dragon god's origin, but he also inherited the dragon god's memories and, well, part of his genes. Yan Qingjue and you both like to use this word to describe him. Shiyu said. He escaped from the dark demon realm and returned to the dragon god realm. He might have contacted the 10,000 Dragons universe. He received some help. He wants to complete the dragon god's unfinished idea. Of course, it could also be the 10,000 Dragons universe. Yan Qingjue knows very little about the 10,000 Dragons universe. The specific situation is unknown. So, I don't want you to waste time on this kind of trivial matter and hinder your war with the divine world. Shiyu looked at Wang Feng again. I heard from Yan Qingjue that the war between you and the divine world is very bad, it's okay. Wang Feng smiled. But this is not a trivial matter. It has something to do with you and the Douluo divine world. How can it be a trivial matter? Shiyu didn't say anything. I'm definitely going to interfere in this matter. Wang Feng said, even if that creation god returns, he has to ask for my permission to take back the Douluo divine world. Besides, a mere dragon god realm, even if they found the 10,000 Dragons universe as their backer, it's a fool's dream if they want to take back the Douluo divine world. Shiyu snorted. After a while, she said, I advise you not to interfere. Although the dragon god realm is strong, I've already told Yan Qingjue that the dark demon realm will unite when the time comes. It won't be easy for the dragon god realm to attack this universe. We don't need you to interfere. Chapter 1852. Ancestral Realm. After leaving the Sea of Reincarnation, Wang Feng returned to the Ancestral Realm. The appearance of the dragon god realm was actually nothing much. But that 10,000 dragons universe was worth Wang Feng's attention. He originally thought that it was the doing of the gods of the God System universe, but he didn't expect it to be another universe. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. This 10,000 dragons universe might not be comparable to the God System universe, but it should be much stronger than the Douluo universe as a whole. That dragon god came from this 10,000 dragons universe, and could even start a god war here. One could imagine that there was still a gap between them. Wang Feng shook his head. Things might not be so simple. Maybe it was the origin of the dragon god and something Shiyu didn't know. Maybe I can let the children of destiny in the group try. Wang Feng thought for a moment and his heart moved. Now that the God Hunt event had begun, other than Jing Tian's world, the other children of destiny's worlds had more or less been invaded by those gods. In fact, there were already gods who had completely noticed it, and directly took over the higher-level worlds, infiltrating step by step. The most obvious was Ghostly's world. When Wang Feng went to Jing Tian's world, Ghostly reported the news from the group. But Wang Feng wasn't there at that time and was fighting with Yuan. The news was sent to Yan Mengyao, and even the points and rewards were given by Yan Mengyao. In Ghost Li's world, there was also the Celestial world. Because Ghost Li's strength had already reached the limit of that world, he was summoned to that so-called Celestial world. And after Ghost Li went up, he found that the Celestial world wasn't the real Celestial world, but a world controlled by gods. The reason was simple: those immortals were all powerful, but they all believed in a powerful god. Its name was Emperor's Origin Spirit. Ghostly had even been baptized by that Emperor's Origin Spirit. To be precise, it should be probing. But Wang Feng didn't bestow a god power imprint on Ghostly's soul, so the Emperor's Origin Spirit couldn't detect it at all. He only thought that Ghostly was a native of the lower realm. These gods' methods are each more powerful than the other. They directly took over the upper realm, searched for children of destiny from various worlds, and nurtured them into a clan. Wang Feng thought. According to the registration, the celestial world should be considered a large world. As a world above the immortal execution world, the place where the immortals lived was definitely not weak. It was very likely that the Emperor Primordial Spirit was an extremely powerful heavenly god. It was a pity. After that, Ghostly used the excuse that he still had things to do in the lower realm, so he did not stay in the upper realm. The Emperor's primordial spirit was not in the immortal realm, and the spiritual detection was only a statue left behind. It was like a machine that scanned the children of destiny. Wang Feng thought that if that Emperor's primordial spirit was in the immortal realm, he would be able to find some clues on Guili. After Ghostly took the opportunity to descend to the lower realm first, he, who had long sensed that something was wrong, immediately reported this news. Yan Mengyao naturally thought that the Emperor Essence Spirit was not simple, so she gave him nearly 200,000 points as a reward. Let's make a trip to the immortal realm and see what the origin of the Emperor's primordial spirit is, Wang Fengxin said. In fact, as long as the gods of the God System universe were not against him, Wang Feng did not have the idea of being a bandit and fighting to the death. Even without the appearance of Abyss, Wang Feng knew that in such a huge God System universe, there were many God Systems. There must be internal strife among the various God Systems, and not all of them were against him. Wang Feng had reservations about the current system of the God System universe. However, a system was a system and a god was a god. Except for Guili. As for the other worlds, they had not been invaded that much. At most, there were only the descendants of the god. But the descendants of the gods, for the current children of destiny, except for a few who were still growing. For example, Cao Cao, who had a strong army and countless soldiers under his command, had the treasure given by Wang Feng, and the blessing of faith. His strength grew very fast, and it was a world of high martial arts. If there was no real God, it would be very difficult to deal with. It was the same on Ingzheng's side. After the overall world was changed, it was slowly evolving toward a world of high martial art. Because its starting point was low, it grew faster, but the current upper limit has not reached the level of Cao Cao's side. The rest were like Yi Fan of the shrouding the heavens world. Now that the same body was also completed, it could be said that the growth track was dozens of times faster than Wang Feng. With his strength, unless it was an extremely powerful clan, otherwise with Yi Fan's cunning and shrewdness, he could easily escape. What's more, the shrouding the heavens world itself was more complicated, and the timeline was extremely long. There were too many strong people born in the long river of time. Each of them was an existence that could look down on the heavens of the universe. There were even existences of the universe level. If ordinary gods dared to directly absorb the power of faith of this world, it might be very difficult. This kind of world, only those extremely powerful gods, such as the origin that Wang Feng met, had enough strength to subdue it. Therefore, it was actually very difficult for Yi Fan to find out about the invasion of gods. At most, some of the clan members would be sent to inquire about the situation. But even the clan members might not be able to meet Yi Fan. They might be destroyed by the mighty figures of that world. As for the rest, they were relatively weak. For example, the Douqi continent might be easier to invade. It was the same on Han Li's side. Wang Feng remembered that the world Han Li was in, the upper realm and the spirit realm. They were all worlds that were easy to invade. The world Su Fan was in should be a planet similar to the Blue Planet. On the contrary, because this kind of thing was too weak, even the gods might not be interested in it. It was very difficult to send clan members to invade such a small planet. Therefore, Su Fan's development would be relatively smooth. After sorting out the situation of these children of destiny one by one, Wang Fengxin already had a plan. After a few more days, the power of faith will be more or less accumulated. Then I can start to create the fifth path of reincarnation. After Wang Feng thought about all this, he instructed Yan Mengyao about some things. Then he planned to enter the world where Ghostly was. Go to that immortal realm to take a look. Meet that emperor's primordial spirit. Yan Mengyao, after I leave. In my name, you will issue a challenge exploration for the God Hunt event. Those who reach a certain level of strength can enter the event instance I issued, the Dragon God Realm instance. Wang Feng said slowly, in this instance you need to reach a certain level of strength to participate. There is no limit to the number of people, and you can explore. You can bring anything you want. If you want to dominate the world, seize land, and plunder resources, you can. At the same time, there is a point reward system. In the Dragon God realm, all activities will generate points. You can think about it yourself. Do you understand? Chapter 1853. Yan Mengyao nodded. She didn't know what kind of place the Dragon God realm was, but since her master had given her instructions, it must be very interesting. After giving out the instructions, Wang Feng left the ancestral realm and headed to the immortal realm where the Emperor's origin soul was. Master is really a hands-off boss. He left just like that. Yan Mengyao muttered. Seriously. But this time, her master seemed to have brought back a lot of origin energy. Yan Mengyao put some of her origin energy into the prize pool, and some of it scattered over the ancestral realm. These origin energy were all purified and strengthened by Wang Feng. Of the 8 origin energy he took from the origin sword, he gave one to Jing Tian. As for the other 7, Wang Feng planned to leave them in the ancestral realm. Origin energy was a powerful energy. In the hands of different life forms, it could unleash different powers. The ancestral realm already had 4 major races. They needed some origin energy as a catalyst to cultivate stronger life forms. Nonsense. What kind of place is the Dragon God realm? Yan Mengyao thought for a moment. But based on her understanding of her master, it was definitely not a good place. After thinking for a while, Yan Mengyao knew that this place was definitely not a good place. Although her master didn't say it explicitly, she knew that he wanted to make a move on this world. But if her master did it himself, it would be beneath his status. So, she decided to use the God Hunt event as an excuse to organize an additional event. On one hand, she could train these children of destiny and make them stronger quickly. On the other hand, she could achieve her goal. After thinking it through, Yan Mengyao spoke in the group without hesitation. At this time, the group was still discussing the God Hunt event. This was ding! A new announcement immediately appeared on the pop-up screen of the crowd. The God Hunt event has been active for some time. The new event dungeon, Dragon God Realm, will be activated 1 day later. Everyone, please be prepared. The announcement appeared. Almost immediately, all the members of the group were attracted to it. Fan Yi, Event Dungeon? Dragon God Realm? What does it do? No matter how hard I try, I can't find any information about those invaders. I can only accumulate points by recruiting more believers. Sigh, compared to Ghostly, who got rich overnight, it's like a snail. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Event Dungeon? Wow, that sounds interesting. Does that mean that we can all participate in it? How is this? Ancestor God. Explain more. Curiosity killed the cat. JPG. Ghostly said, the Ancestor God seems to have already gone to our upper realm. The one making the announcement should be the Ancestor God's assistant. Are you not familiar with it? Eternal Peace Pawn. Event Dungeon? Great. I have just gained control of the origin energy is a god demon. I can already exchange a few moves with a demon venerable on our side. In a few more days, I feel like I can ascend to the heavens. This event dungeon is the God realm. Another 10,000 years. Event dungeon, is of us to enter? If that's the case, then wouldn't you be able to meet me? People can't betray me. I have a feeling that this event dungeon will be very interesting. Dragon God Realm. Just the name alone was enough to tell that it was no ordinary place. Perhaps those who were weak could only watch from the sidelines. Li Feiyu said, I feel like I'm just weak. It seems like I can only watch you guys participate. Helpless. JPG. Nan Xian Immortal Sovereign. Not necessarily. Even if there is a requirement for cultivation, it is an event dungeon. But it is not compulsory. We can work together. Messages flashed by like a flood. Yan Mengyao glanced at them and felt a headache. These children of destiny were all very intelligent. In just a few sentences, they had already guessed most of the rules of this event even before he had even said it. That Fan Yi was even guessing why the Ancestor God opened this event dungeon. Yan Mengyao estimated that Yi Fan would be able to guess it if she said it. After thinking for a while, Yan Mengyao posted the event dungeon's details. The Dragon God Realm event dungeon's requirements are as follows. Because the world is dangerous, there is a requirement for strength. The Ancestor God has made a simple division of your strength. To enter the world, you must be at least rank 3. As for the ranks, there will be an announcement later. You can estimate it yourself. The event's rules are unlimited. You can explore freely in the event dungeon. It doesn't matter if you want to conquer the world, or if you want to fight and kill the dragons of the Dragon God Realm, or if you want to quietly develop your own land, or if you want to seize resources to strengthen yourself. At the same time, according to the extent of your exploration, you will be rewarded with points. The reward system will be given when you start exploring the event dungeon in the Dragon God Realm. Yan Mengyao paused when she said this. Then, she continued to post the announcement. At the same time, because it is a free event dungeon, you can bring people or items to participate in the event. There is no limit. But warning, if you bring a large number of people or items, it is very easy to attract the attention of the dragon race in the world. In a short period of time, the dragon race in the world will see you as an enemy and destroy you. So please consider it yourself. You can work together or go alone. This event dungeon will open in 2 days. At that time, you only need to chant the Great Tao God Summoning Chapter, and the Ancestor God will send down a teleportation gate in your world. Then, you can enter the event dungeon in the Dragon God realm. Please be prepared. After sending the announcement, Yan Mengyao thought for a while and felt that there was no problem. At this time, the group was already in an uproar. The world cannot betray me. There is no limit. Does that mean I can bring the entire Great Qin God army into the event dungeon? Arrogant. JPG. Fan Yi, this event is fun. It's just that you are too friendly to old brother Chao and old brother Ing. Damn it, you two are the leaders of the two forces in our group. You don't lack millions of elite troops, right? Even if you don't bring that many, if you bring a few tens of thousands of trump cards into this event dungeon, your starting point will be different. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade, Woo, I just took a look. I don't seem to have reached the 3rd level of strength. The 3rd level of strength requires one to have the ability to shatter the void. 3rd level, we need to be at least a Do Emperor to be able to shatter the void. I am still a little short. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. What are you afraid of? Just come. Don't forget, we can enter together and work together. Bring your lover Xiao Yan for us to take a look and check him out. Ghostly. That's right, we can work together in this event dungeon. In other words, although our individual numbers are not as large as the 2 emperors, we can still form a team. Ghost Li's words immediately caused the eyes of the group members to light up. Chapter 1854. The discussion in the group was in full swing. At this time, Wang Feng had already arrived at the immortal world, the world above the immortal execution world. The first feeling he got when he entered this world was that it was very big. Similar to the Dark Demon world, it was a great world formed by merging many worlds. It was extraordinary. This Emperor Primordial Spirit might not be simple. Wang Feng closed his eyes and sensed. In order to prevent the Emperor Primordial Spirit from sensing him, Wang Feng swaggered in. Instead, he hid his aura and entered this world as an ordinary immortal. Even so, Wang Feng sensed that this world had many unique realms. Directly find the traces of the imprint left by the Emperor Primordial Spirit, then I can see what this Emperor Primordial Spirit is all about. Wang Fengxin pondered. Since this world had already noticed Ghostly, and now Ghostly was his believer, as the world above the immortal execution world and an unknown god, Wang Feng naturally wanted to prepare in advance. He couldn't always be like the other worlds and let the gods find trouble with him first. Wang Feng closed his eyes slightly. His divine will was like a breeze, blowing through the entire world. His soul felt the passage of time in this world, feeling the flow of the long river of time in this world. This was the power of the initial wheel soul. It seems to be in the center. Wang Feng's deep eyes turned to one direction. The spirit qi in this world was very rich. Wang Feng entered this world using the void positioning. According to the information on Ghost Li's side, he deduced the coordinates to come in. Even if the Emperor Primordial Spirit sensed him, he might only think that the immortals of this world were helping him find some seedlings and brought them to the immortal world. He wouldn't notice anything, unless Wang Feng directly exposed his powerful strength. After sensing the approximate location, Wang Fengxin moved, floating like an immortal, toward the center. Although this world is controlled by the Emperor Primordial Spirit, it still seems to be a proper immortal Tao civilization. Could it be that the Emperor Primordial Spirit didn't change the civilization of this world? He moved forward a little. Wang Feng encountered several waves of immortals who were either riding on clouds or riding immortal artifacts. These immortals were very powerful and were basically on par with the Dark Devil Realm's Devil Monarch. Among them, there was no lack of existences comparable to demon gods. Wang Feng even saw an existence surpassing demon gods on a gigantic immortal tier flying boat. This meant that immortals of this level were close to reaching the threshold of a universe-level lifeform. In terms of strength alone, this world was already much stronger than the Dark Devil world. In just a moment, Wang Feng arrived at the center where the reaction was the strongest. Moreover, Wang Feng discovered that a large number of immortals were gathered here. It seemed that something extremely important was about to happen in the center. In all directions of the Heaven Yuan world, Wang Feng had been flying for quite a long time without changing his expression. He had passed countless mountains, lakes, and natural paradises. Even the immortals he had met were stronger than the last. The immortal Dao civilization of this world did not seem to exceed Wang Feng's imagination. Without the existence of the Emperor's primordial spirit, it was probably just a proper top immortal Dao civilization. Until Wang Feng arrived at the central area. There is a strong power of faith gathered here. It should be the place where the primordial spirit manifests itself. Wang Feng stopped in midair. There was a huge mountain in front of him. The mountain was connected to the heavens and earth, and there were endless divine seal precepts around it. Strands of golden power of faith gathered from the surroundings like a tornado, turning into an illusion and wrapping around the mountain. According to Ghost Li's information, this was the mountain where the immortal had received him. Primordial Emperor Mountain. To be precise, the image left in Ghost Li's mind by the primordial spirit was this Primordial Emperor Mountain. It was said that one could see the Primordial Emperor Mountain on this mountain. Every once in a while, the primordial spirit would descend upon this place in person and bestow various treasures and artifacts to the immortals. At the same time, it would also take away the children of destiny of the small worlds that the immortals had collected, or some of the most powerful beings of this world. They would be taken in as a clan and enjoy endless divine grace. What's interesting is that the children of destiny of the immortal Dao civilization are usually collected from the subordinate worlds of the immortal Dao civilization. Wang Feng looked at the primordial Emperor Mountain. With his perception, he could tell at a glance that the mountain itself was formed by the power of faith. Of course, there were many other materials mixed in, but the main theme was still the condensation of the power of faith. It was naturally placed in this world of the immortal Dao civilization to gather the power of faith of all living beings and to act as a hub to connect. TSK, the power of faith gathered by this mountain is really enormous. I wonder how many years the primordial spirit has controlled this world. Wang Fengxin thought to himself. The power of faith of a god was unique. It was difficult to absorb. Even if he obtained this mountain, he would not be able to absorb the power of faith in this mountain for his own use. Not to mention refining the power of faith. By the same logic, Wang Feng could gather the power of faith of all living beings, and the other gods could not use it. However, Wang Feng had heard that in the divine system universe, there was something called the Crystal of Faith, which was extremely pure power of faith. It could be used everywhere. Any god could absorb and refine it to strengthen their own divine realm and their clan. Unfortunately, that thing should be very rare. Otherwise, the several gods that Wang Feng had met before would have taken one or two of them. But it seemed that there was no such thing. Looking at the big picture through a tube, I can see the big picture. This primordial spirit must be extremely powerful. Wang Fengxin thought to himself. He had just used his soul to perceive the time and felt the long river of time in this world. He discovered that the long river of time in this world had traces of the primordial spirit a long, long time ago. At this moment, the primordial spirit suddenly glowed with a blazing light. The light was pure and full of holy power. Outside the primordial spirit mountain, the sky was densely packed with immortals. Even if Wang Feng stood far away and watched, he could only see a dense mass of people. However, The moment the light rose from the primordial spirit mountain, all the immortals knelt down, their faces filled with reverence. They were chanting some kind of syllable silently, as if they were on a pilgrimage. They did not move at all. Wang Feng's eyes narrowed. These immortals all have divine power imprints on them. Obviously, they were all bestowed by the primordial spirit. It's not surprising that they are so devout, Wang Feng pondered. However, most of these immortals are relatively ordinary. It seems that when these gods develop their clans and bestow divine power imprints, they basically do so without screening. Perhaps for the primordial spirit, the immortals in this world are just a tool. Chapter 1855. But even if it's a tool, it still needs to be nurtured well. Wang Feng thought of this and shook his head. In fact, if he couldn't find the Son of Destiny, this method of casting a wide net and bestowing a large number of divine power imprints could also be used to find a few Sons of Destiny with excellent aptitude from the vast sea of clans. Then, he would replicate it and then hand it over to the clans to find the Son of Destiny. Once it was developed, the collection of faith power would also be extremely fast. After all, the system of the God system universe had been eliminated. There was a reason why it could be used and recognized by the gods now. Although Wang Feng didn't want to walk this path, it was because he felt that something like the divine power imprint was basically equivalent to a spiritual baptism. Once it was imprinted, it was equivalent to being washed from the soul to the body and mind. In his mind, there would only be the gods, and no other existences. The clans would still have their own wisdom, consciousness, and even memories, but there would only be gods in the soul. It was too abnormal. To a certain extent, it could even deprive the Son of Destiny of his destiny. It was too abnormal. Therefore, Wang Feng didn't approve of this system. But he had to admit that it was indeed powerful. He waited quietly. In just a moment, a magnificent shadow descended from the sky. Wang Fengxin was shocked as he stared at the shadow. The shadow was covered in all kinds of complicated divine runes. It looked like a human, but it was hazy and unfathomable. It emitted a supreme aura that was imposing without being angry. Behind it, there were 18 sun-like light sources flickering. It was here. Just by its aura, Wang Feng knew that this emperor's primordial spirit was not on the same level as the gods he had encountered before. At least, it was comparable to Yuan or even stronger. And that Yuan was very interesting. Wang Feng knew that when they fought in the Immortal Sword world, that guy didn't use his full strength. For some reason, the other party seemed to be looking forward to defeating him. Now, this emperor's primordial spirit had such strength, or even stronger. There are many factions in the God system universe, and there are many gods, even powerful heavenly gods are countless. Wang Fengxin sighed. This heavenly god gave Wang Feng the feeling that he controlled the true will of the universe. He was a true universe-level life form, a magnificent and powerful heavenly god. He was not simply a heavenly god who had undergone the cultivation of the will projection. In the end, the will projections controlled by the heavenly gods were still somewhat lacking. Compared to a true universe-level life form, it was still lacking. However, they had godly domains, spawns, and power of faith. When combined, their combat power was no weaker than a true universe-level life form. Being able to possess the will of the universe was naturally 1 in a million. The illusory figure of the Emperor's primordial spirit descended, and waves of scorching light radiated in all directions. That was the Emperor's primordial spirit communicating with the many believers. Wang Feng's body and soul directly jumped into the long river of time, escaping into the void without being detected. However, he was able to decipher the contents of their conversation. The primordial spirit asked, every 500 years, are there any divine seedlings or divine seeds in this period? These divine seedlings were the children of destiny with extremely good aptitudes. They were born with enormous lives. Divine seeds were immortals born in this world with extremely high innate talent. Once every 500 years, this meant that the primordial spirit of this emperor would only descend once every 500 years. It looked fast, but in fact, on the king primordial spirit side, if he sped up the time of this world, only a few dozen days would have passed in the God System's universe. Wang Feng was naturally familiar with this operation. Following the Emperor's primordial spirit's question, many immortals began to report. However, the situation was not good. Wang Feng counted carefully and there were only about 100 of them. Moreover, there were very few children of destiny. There were only a few. Their aptitudes were all average. The aptitudes of the children of destiny were generally observed according to the potential of the world they were in and their own bodies. The Emperor's primordial spirit said, "Not long ago, I sensed in the upper realm that there was a child of destiny with an extremely strong and pure soul. He even went through my spiritual detection. That person has been to this world before, why didn't he bring him here?" Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. This was probably the Ghost Li he was referring to. The current Ghost Li was naturally far from the Ghost Li of this world. This Emperor's primordial spirit had good eyesight and took a liking to him immediately. Hearing the Emperor's primordial spirit's question, one of the immortals who received Ghost Li immediately replied, reporting to the exalted God, "That child said that he still has unfulfilled wishes in the lower realm. His mind is not pure, and it is difficult for him to step onto the path of godhood. He wants to rest for a while before serving the exalted God." This little immortal thinks that this child may be a little wary and does not understand the exalted God's might. Perhaps the exalted God only needs to descend and bestow God's grace to lead this child onto the path of godhood. What a good child who thought for the exalted God in everything, Wang Fengxin thought to himself. This was the power of the divine imprint. The soul only had the exalted God, and the starting point of everything was only for the exalted God. However, the other meaning of this was that he could not deal with that fellow and needed the exalted God to do it personally. Wang Fengxin waited quietly. If this Emperor's primordial spirit dared to force him, he would not hesitate to attack. It was impossible for him to be afraid, even if this Emperor's primordial spirit was very strong. That was his purpose for coming here. Of course, there was another thought, which was such a powerful exalted God, and the will of the universe, there must be a lot of origins, right? Even if he could not expose all his strength to defeat the latter, it should not be a problem to extract a few origins, right? At this moment, the Emperor's primordial spirit slowly responded. The Emperor's primordial spirit said, "Nothing can be forced. Since that child still has unfulfilled wishes in the lower realm, we can wait for now. My kin must believe in me with all their hearts and souls. God's grace can give him great power, but it may not be able to fulfill his wishes. There is a huge difference between the two. Since that's the case, let's end the meeting here. I will leave the divine imprint in these exalted seedlings and seeds and let them cultivate in this world for a while. When the time comes, I will come and take them away." With that, the Emperor's primordial spirit disappeared. It was extremely fast. Wang Fengxin was speechless. His mind was full of question marks. What was going on? Was this Emperor's primordial spirit so easy to talk to? Ghost Li is such a good seedling, and he does not intend to force it? Wang Fengxin was a little shocked. To be honest, this was a little unexpected. He did not expect this Emperor's primordial spirit to let it go just like that. Perhaps, although this Emperor's primordial spirit is in the system of the exalted God universe, it could be her. What was going on? Was this Emperor's primordial spirit so easy to talk to? Ghost Li is such a good seedling, and he does not intend to force it? Wang Fengxin was a little shocked. To be honest, this was a little unexpected. He did not expect this Emperor's primordial spirit to let it go just like that. Perhaps, although this Emperor's primordial spirit is in the system of the exalted God universe, it could be her. Chapter 1856. In a certain divine region. The dazzling golden divine shadow suppressed its voice, as if it was conveying some kind of emotion. A moment later, a white light suddenly appeared in the void, and a human figure gradually emerged. "Oh? You met him?" A figure appeared. It was Abyss. Nonsense. I originally wanted to see if there were any good seedlings in my primordial realm, but in the end I felt that something was amiss. You also know that my willpower is the primordial spirit godly will. Although my battle power is not much compared to those powerful universe wills, it is still very powerful. However, he was extremely sensitive to all kinds of wills and killing intent. My primordial realm is a world that I have been secretly cultivating for a long time. Under normal circumstances other than you, there are basically not many people who know about it. Even if they entered my primordial realm, they wouldn't have been able to do so quietly. It's either a god of the same level as me or one of those heavenly gods. Moreover, within the killing intent, I sensed a special will that was somewhat similar to what you told me before. Thus, I suspected that it was that native heavenly god. After saying that, the golden figure hesitated for a few seconds. Yuan asked, "Do you feel the threat of death?" The golden figure coughed awkwardly and nodded slightly. This native heavenly god has an extraordinary background. His strength cannot be underestimated, the primordial spirit said. Fortunately, you reminded me. However, I did not provoke this native heavenly god. Why is he looking for me? You don't understand? Abyss sneered. You graduated at the same time as me back then. Now, you are considered one of the top gods in the imperial bloodline god system. It must be that the followers of this native god have been tainted by your subordinates in the primordial realm. Otherwise, why would they find trouble with you? Impossible. The Emperor's primordial spirit immediately denied it. I'm different from those gods. As long as there's a god power imprint, I'll basically deny it when I use spiritual detection. It's impossible for my clans to keep them in the primordial realm, much less get involved. I didn't detect any divine power imprints in these batches of pre-selected clan tribes. Besides, that native sky god didn't walk the path of our god system's universe. How could he have a clan? The primordial spirit denied it decisively. Idiot. Abyss laughed again. He has a clan, but it might not be a divine seal. You might not be able to discover it, but you might not be able to. Do you know how I provoked him in the immortal sword world? How would I know that he would appear in that world? The Emperor Primordial Spirit was slightly taken aback. The two of them had been classmates for over 1,000 years. He knew many things about Abyss. He knew that he had been used as a hired thug by Mo Ing Divine Palace to find that native heavenly god and take back his origin. However, he was not clear about the details. When I found the immortal sword world, I observed the Son of Destiny of that world for a long time and found that this Son of Destiny was very special. He seemed to be worshipping a god, but there was no mark on his body. This is very strange because such a situation does not exist in our god system universe. Furthermore, that world isn't bad. The upper limit of this child of destiny is also very high. Such an outstanding clan tribe actually had the belief of a god. But that god didn't bestow him with a divine imprint to nurture him. It's really strange. In our divine universe, this is almost impossible. And those native heavenly gods are proud and arrogant. They have always looked down on the system of our divine universe, but they have no choice but to submit. It's also impossible for them to cross the universe to observe this small immortal civilization. Abyss said word by word, so I thought that it might be that the native heavenly god was conducting some kind of experiment. Think about it, that native heavenly god signed a holy letter of war with our divine universe. That was a letter of war guaranteed by the Supreme God. He didn't dare to return. And the war of gods is the rule of our divine universe. No matter how strong those native heavenly gods are, they can't defeat us with the rules of our divine universe. So, if this native heavenly god wants to win the war of gods, there is only one way, which is to accept the rules of the divine universe, which is our system. Only in this way, he has a slim chance of defeating the enlightening god of Donghuang divine system. So, he will definitely get involved in the system of our divine universe, but he may not choose his clan tribe according to our way. When Abyss said this, he stopped. If you use the thinking of the gods of our divine universe, of course, it's difficult for you to detect whether he has any clan tribe that you've touched. But from the result, since he came to you, it must be that you've touched his clan tribe by accident. Fortunately, you're still the old-fashioned god. You're diligently developing your clan tribe, and you don't provoke other universes. Your aptitude is not inferior to mine, but your strength is still stuck at the level of Genesis heavenly god. You've already passed the 10th calamity, but you still can't advance. Abyss shook his head and sighed. The divine universe was too big, but mainstream gods were the majority. Emperor Primordial Spirit was a relatively old-fashioned god. To be precise, his style was old-fashioned, but his system was still the same. The old-fashioned gods were relatively more stable and steady. But the speed of progress was too slow. In today's divine universe, such old-fashioned gods were very rare. If you put it that way, it makes sense. Emperor Primordial Spirit pondered for a moment. I'll go back and take a closer look. The gods of our divine bloodline faction never provoke other factions, and we rarely participate in the affairs of the divine universe. Of course, we're definitely on the side of the divine universe. As for this native heavenly god, forget about it. I don't have the intention to provoke him. Speaking of which, thank you for reminding me. Abyss waved his hand. Don't thank me. I just have a hunch that this native heavenly god might cause a big trouble in the divine universe. You're the top god of the divine bloodline faction, and you're the kind that needs to be nurtured. There's a high chance that you'll provoke him. I just didn't expect it to be so soon. Abyss shook his head. But what? Emperor Primordial Spirit asked. I think. Abyss thought for a moment. Maybe you can try to get in touch with this native heavenly god. Do I look like an idiot to you? Emperor Primordial Spirit couldn't help but say, me? This native heavenly god is a key figure in the divine war. He's on the opposite side of our divine universe. To be precise, he's on the native heavenly god side. Me? Don't you know what the higher-ups are thinking? I didn't live in vain for tens of thousands of years. Although my thinking is a little old-fashioned, I'm not stupid. If I stand on the wrong side, our entire faction will be in trouble. Chapter 1857. The Primordial Spirit felt that his friend had changed ever since he left the Grand Emperor Origin Sword and Menjing Divine Academy. Maybe he had let himself go. He had forgotten that he was a god of the divine system universe. Idiot, of course not. Yuan looked at the Primordial Spirit with disdain. I have my reasons for saying that. That native heavenly god has already entered the sights of those ancient factions. But their attitude seems strange. Although the higher-ups want to take those native heavenly gods into the divine system universe. Anyway, it's not that simple. I have something to do now and have to leave. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind making contact with that native heavenly god. I think it's quite interesting. Scram. The Primordial Spirit waved his hand. The illusory figure was dispersed. Wang Feng returned to the ancestral realm. He went to a lonely place. This Primordial Spirit should have sensed me? Wang Feng returned in disappointment. It can sense me even after I escaped into the river of time. It seems that this god is quite powerful. Master, why are you so fast this time? Yan Mengyao naturally sensed him when he returned to the ancestral realm. What's fast? Wang Feng glared at Yan Mengyao. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Yan Mengyao blinked. Wang Feng was stunned and seemed to understand something. It's been too long. This little heavenly Tao was driving in front of me, and I didn't even react. How's the event going? Wang Feng angrily glared at Yan Mengyao. They're waiting for you to come back and open the portal, Yan Mengyao said. Everyone seems to be in high spirits. Wang Feng rubbed his chin. After all, the entire Dragon God realm was an event dungeon. Even if those children of destiny had been to other worlds, they would still be curious. Moreover, it was mainly related to the point. Naturally, they were very interested. Alright then, get ready. I'll open the portal to the Dragon God realm for them immediately. Wang Feng said slowly. Because the Dragon God realm had already been to the Douluo divine realm and left traces, Long Xie could sense it. With the coordinates, there was no need to slowly search for it. With Wang Feng's current ability, opening the portal was just a matter of raising his hand. The portal itself was a simple matter of opening the passage between the two worlds. At the same time, in the chat group, everyone, please get ready. The teleportation gate for your world's event instance dungeon is about to open. At that time, the chat group would remain open and there would be no changes. At the same time, the location of the event dungeon was completely different. Remember, if you haven't found your teammates, I don't recommend long-distance exploration. The Dragon God Realm dungeon is very dangerous for you. Yan Mengyao immediately issued an announcement. As soon as the announcement was released, Fan Yi, preparation complete. Requesting launch. Hurry up. Shrouding Heaven World. Fan Yi stood on a mountain peak and was extremely excited. Behind him, there were many experts from the Big Dipper Eastern Wilderness. Boss, when will the portal open? Could it be here? A disciple from a sacred ground asked. Will we have a chance to see the ancestral god in our first activity? Yi Fan glanced at this disciple and said in a mocking tone, not only will we be able to meet the ancestor god this time, we will also be able to obtain who knows how many benefits. There are definitely many rare and precious treasures in the Dragon God realm. Once we return, it won't be a problem for all of you to rise several levels. How can an event personally arranged by the ancestor god be bad? When we come back, we'll sweep through the entire eastern wilderness, Yi Fan said in a heroic manner. In the chat group, at the same time, Doqi Continent, Xiao Yen and Xiao Suner stood side by side. Behind them was a group of experts who were at least Do Wang's. Brother Xiao Yen, once we return from the Dragon God realm, the soul race will definitely not be our match. Xiao Suner said excitedly. This is an event dungeon personally arranged by the ancestor god. This Dragon God realm is definitely extraordinary. Judging from its name, it must be dominated by dragons. Then when the time comes, we'll pull out dragon tendons, drink dragon blood, and eat dragon meat. Xiao Yen chuckled. In my opinion, from the ancestor god's laws, this Dragon God realm has most likely provoked the ancestor god. However, to the ancestor god, this Dragon God realm can be destroyed with a flick of his finger. But the ancestor god still cared about us and gave this Dragon God realm to us as an event dungeon so that we can explore it to our heart's content. In order to repay the ancestor god, we will definitely turn this Dragon God realm upside down. Alright, we'll make the ancestor god proud. Xiao Sun pursed her lips and let out a bell-like laugh. Batty. But we still need to be careful. This is also the ancestor god's test. If an accident happens and the ancestor god comes to save us, that would be too embarrassing. Don't worry, Sun. Xiao Yen smiled confidently. The Great Qin Realm. Ingzheng stood on a platform that was over 100 meters tall. Above his head was a 5-colored canopy that was inlaid with a dragon soaring through the clouds. On his left and right, There was a cold-faced swordsman who exuded a powerful aura and held a divine sword in his hand. On the two sides below, there were representatives of the various 100 schools of thought. Every one of them wore a solemn expression, but their eyes were filled with anticipation. In the sky, the silver river still stretched across the entire empire. It was bright and resplendent. Below the platform, there were rows of square-shaped soldiers. They were all dressed in black armor and wielded shiny silver spears. They looked like murderous weapons. Your Majesty, according to your orders, this subject has carefully selected 10,000 elite soldiers. Wang Jian walked forward and said with a calm aura. Not bad. Ing Zheng gave a faint nod of his head. With a wave of his large sleeve, his entire body radiated with an aura that seemed to transcend the 9 heavens. This time, all of you will accompany me to the Dragon God realm and conquer the world. This was the glory and grace bestowed by the Ancestor God. If you die in the other world, you are not worthy of being great Qin soldiers. How dare you call yourself an Ancestor God's disciple? Look up at the sky. Look at the Milky Way that the Ancestor God gave you a new life. I've shown you the scenery of the universe. You are the trump card of great Qin, and you are devout believers of the Ancestor God. Don't disappoint me on this trip, much less the Ancestor God. Ing Zheng's voice was like an ancient tune, showing his profound cultivation base. His voice spread throughout the entire platform, allowing the 10,000 elite ace soldiers below to hear him clearly. Ha! 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 Ing Zheng nodded his head satisfyingly. Almost at the same time, every child of destiny in the group was prepared. Even though Han Li's strength was relatively weak compared to the other members of the group, he was still able to maintain his composure. They had all made ample preparations. Scattered star seas. When we arrive, don't move and send our location to the other members of the group. Han Li pondered. There are certainly many dragons in the Dragon God realm. Even in my world of cultivation, the dragon clan is very powerful. I fear that even the weakest flood dragon is not something a golden core cultivator can resist. With the words Dragon God as the boundary, they must be extremely powerful. They might even surpass tribulation and reach the level of a true immortal. That is even more impossible for me to resist. I can only rely on the group members. As for me, I'll just follow behind and pick up some things. With that thought, Han Li couldn't help but nod his head and reveal a smile. At this moment, golden light shone from the sky. In his line of sight, a mysterious teleportation gate appeared in front of him along with the golden light, distorting the void. Chapter 1858. The Dragon God Realm. As a world created by the Dragon God, the Dragon God Realm could only be considered a small world. To Wang Feng, a small world like this wasn't much different from the blue planet of his past life. If it was placed in the universe, it would be a small planet. If it was placed in a great world, it would only be a planar world. For example, the Douluo continent. However, any small world could be changed. For example, the current Douluo continent had undergone earth-shattering changes, and was basically comparable to the Douluo divine realm. After all, Bibidon had returned to the continent a long time ago and was secretly controlling it. As a result, the Dragon God realm had naturally undergone huge changes after so many years. The Dragon God had left a lot of his bloodline in the Dragon God realm. As time passed, the Dragon God realm became a world where only the dragon race lived. Every living being born in this world had the dragon race's bloodline. When the Golden Dragon King secretly returned to the Dragon God realm, everything changed. The northwest of the Dragon God realm was the most desolate area in the Dragon God realm. It was guarded by powerful dragon race members. However, at this moment, a figure appeared in this scorching desert that was barren and devoid of dragon smoke. Cough cough fuck, those bastards from the Dragon God realm actually traveled through a wormhole to the void dimension from such a remote place. A faint light appeared in the air. Long Xie walked out of it. He coughed twice before examining the land around him. This is such a remote area, but the energy density is only a little lower than the Douluo god realms. No matter how many years the dragon god's world developed, there's no way it could reach this level. Long Xie didn't know the history of the dragon god. However, he knew that a small world created by the dragon god couldn't have reached this level. No matter how long it took, it was impossible. Any world would enter an era of decline if it didn't have an external force. It couldn't grow stronger. Long Xie understood this principle very well. A short while later, another figure walked out of the void. It was the only ruler of the Douluo god realm, Divine King Tang San. Long Xie wanted to come alone, but as the Divine King of the Douluo god realm, Tang San decided to come to the Dragon God realm himself. After all, the Dragon God realm and the Dragon God realm had a close relationship. In fact, Tang San had also consulted the Genesis divinity source. After all, as the heavenly Tao of the Douluo divine realm, it controlled the reincarnation cycle of the divine realm. However, the Dragon God realm had already arrived at their doorstep, so it wouldn't be normal if they didn't respond. However, the Genesis divine source's reply made Tang San's heart sink. Because it was extremely likely that the Dragon God realm was related to another power in the universe. It was not simple at all. He had to be extremely careful. Naturally, Tang San was worried that Long Xie would come alone. Long Xie was Big Brother Feng's underling, after all, and had helped him a lot in the Douluo divine realm. If something happened, Tang San wouldn't be able to face Big Brother Feng. Long Xie, you said Big Brother Feng saw you. What does he think of the Dragon God realm? Tang San stood in the void above the desert, holding a blood-black long sword in his hand, and looking around vigilantly. Boss only gave me one origin core. I think the Dragon God realm is nothing to him, Long Xie said. Long Xie said. Boss isn't very serious about this. If he were to personally take action, the Dragon God realm would be in big trouble. Boss is probably more concerned about what you said about the Dragon God realm's backer. What universe was it again? The 10,000 Dragons universe, Tang San said. The Genesis divine source sent me a message. Yes, it's that 10,000 Dragons universe, Long Xie said. The fact that the Dragon God realm is able to develop to this extent has something to do with the Golden Dragon King returning to the Dragon God realm. However, it's more likely that the Golden Dragon King contacted the Myriad Dragons cosmos and borrowed power from it to develop the Dragon God realm to its current state. After that, Long Xie made a grabbing motion as if he was trying to grab something. This level of energy isn't something a small world should have. Long Xie pointed at their surroundings. The fact that this place is so desolate means that this is a very remote place in the Dragon God realm. These bastards are very cautious. They entered the void dimension from this position. Let's leave as soon as possible. It's very likely that there are some powerful dragons guarding this place. They found it by searching the space nodes based on the location where the dragons had invaded the void element sky territory. However, Tang San didn't move in the slightest. He looked around and said, "It's not might, it's definitely there. Come out." Long Xie's heart skipped a beat. He had been absorbing the essence Wang Feng had given him recently, so his strength was fluctuating. After all, the essence Wang Feng had given him was very powerful, and he needed time to digest it. That was why he didn't sense anything wrong the moment he landed. However, Tang San was a divine king of the God realm, and he was stronger than Long Xie in every aspect. Almost as soon as he arrived in this world, he sensed countless powerful auras in this barren desert. The sky changed color in an instant, and sand started to flow and gather. In just a few moments, gigantic dragons gradually emerged from the yellow sand, the white clouds in the sky, or the scorching sandstorm. We've been surrounded? Long Xie narrowed his eyes and chuckled coldly. You bastards! Who do you think I am? Even if the Golden Dragon King were here, he'd have to call me Big Brother. Tang San. He had a rough idea of Long Xie's background. In terms of time of birth, this was indeed the case. However, ha 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 ha, you're just a pile of trash abandoned by the dragon ancestor. Who would have thought you'd be so arrogant now? As expected of a traitor to the dragon clan. Ha! Amidst the yellow sand, a huge dragon tens of thousands of meters long, whose tail could not be seen, let out a deafening roar. This dragon was golden in color, and its scales were connected to a series of faint crimson patterns. Its aura was extremely powerful, and it was exuding an extremely terrifying aura. What was even more terrifying was that there were many more of these dragons. They blotted out the sky and the sun, completely covering this area. Long Xie transmitted his voice to Tang San in a low voice. I told you it wasn't a good thing for you to follow us, right? Now that we've been surrounded, it looks like these bastards are quite powerful. Tang San fell silent. In reality, he was also a little surprised. One had to realize that every world had its own rules. The Douluo divine realm had its own rules, and these dragons would be weakened to a certain extent if they tried to force their way into the Douluo divine realm. Chapter 1859. By the same logic, they would be weakened if they tried to force their way into this world. If the Dragon God realm itself was just a small world, it would naturally not weaken a grand divine king in any way. However, the Dragon God realm had received the favor of the 10,000 Dragons universe, so it was very different from before. Powerful laws had formed in this world. Under these rules, even if these dragons originally only had the strength of a first-tier god, they would still be able to unleash power comparable to that of a god king. The situation doesn't look good. Tang San sent a sound transmission to Long Xie. Let's cut the crap and fight our way out of here, or turn back. I'm not going to go. Long Xie shook his head. You think I'm going to turn back just because you're a bunch of bastards left behind by the Dragon God? I'm not afraid even if I have to die here. Tang San smiled. Then what are we waiting for? Let's do it. It just so happens that I want to see how strong the Dragon God realm is. The moment he said that, Tang San gripped the Azura long sword in his hand, and a dazzling divine halo appeared around him. His powerful origin energy merged with the divine halo as he charged toward the enemy. Long Xie looked at him and thought, as expected of Boss's brother. Long Xie didn't transform into his true form. Instead, he summoned a bloody beam of light and charged toward the enemy. The sky immediately flashed and the world trembled. At the same time, tens of thousands of kilometers away. This is a good place. Cao Cao shook his battle robes and looked around him. Then, he closed his eyes and sensed the ripples of the world. Beside him, there was a teleportation gate that was flickering with a faint golden light. Ahem, what's our next step, Your Majesty? To the side, a burly man said in a muffled voice. Su Chu, do you need me to teach you how to do things after following me for so long? Cao Cao shot the burly man a glance and said in an annoyed tone. The burly man scratched his head embarrassedly. This is my first time in a world like this. It's my first time, so I don't know what to do. Cao Cao said worriedly. How the hell am I supposed to know? This is my first time here as well. Of course, Cao Cao looked around. When he saw that the military generals and strategists around him were all looking at him expectantly, he first looked at the sky and pretended to think for a moment. It was only then that he slowly said in a tone that said he understood everything very well, this realm is the Dragon God realm. Now that we're here, the first step is to scout the surroundings and find our allies. As believers of the Ancestor God, we may not be in the same world, but we are kindred spirit. As for the dragons of this world, needless to say, we naturally can't let them go. Of course, he still had to act according to his ability. Do not underestimate the enemy. Be careful. Hearing this, the many soldiers behind Cao Cao, as well as the generals and strategists, let out a long "oh." I didn't expect that we would have allies in this world. As expected of His Majesty to be so cautious. Such a huge world, it seems like His Majesty already has a plan in mind. I really want to see how powerful the dragons of this world are. Our ferocious cavalry's spears have not tasted blood for a long time. When Cao Cao heard these praises, he waved his hand and asked, "Has Wen Yuan returned?" The reason I let him enter the portal first was to gather information. Just as Cao Cao's voice faded, a human figure appeared in front of Cao Cao. "Your Majesty, a large number of dragons have been discovered ahead. General Wen Yuan has already scouted out the traces. Those dragons are very powerful and there are many of them. Especially in terms of size, each of them is at least 1,000 meters long. Your Majesty, please make a decision." This human figure seemed to have used some kind of secret technique to send a message from an extremely distant place. Cao Cao's eyes lit up slightly. He immediately said, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's kill them." "Your Majesty, didn't you say to be careful?" the burly man asked. Listening to the situation, those dragons don't seem weak. They are indeed not weak. Cao Cao said calmly, "I have to test the strength of these dragons for my allies first, in case they encounter any mishaps. As believers of the ancestor god, allies of the same path. Of course, we have this obligation. Isn't this enough to be careful?" Su Chu thought about it and felt that it was very reasonable. "Let's go, Erlang. His Majesty has ordered us to kill with me," Su Chu roared excitedly. He suddenly waved his hand, and the blood-colored warhorse under him immediately let out a long cry that shook the sky. In an instant, this warhorse seemed to be riding a cloud. With a light kick of its front foot, it dashed into the air. The many soldiers behind him also followed. Riding their warhorses, they leaped thousands of meters high from the ground. The scene was very spectacular. Su Chu is extremely reckless. "Your Majesty, I'll go too," a mystic cultivator said softly. It's fine. Cao Cao waved his hand and coughed a few times. "An ally has already told me the coordinate. It's nearby. We can go there slowly. After that, if Su Chu and the others can't handle it, we'll talk about it again." The mystic cultivator immediately understood. His Majesty wanted to show off to his allies. He wanted to show off in this vast and boundless alternate world. He wanted to be the best in front of the ancestor god. After thinking this through, he didn't try to persuade him. After a while, that mystic cultivator asked, "Your Majesty, what if that Su Chu really can't deal with it? Isn't there still Wen Yuan?" Cao Cao smiled. "I don't believe that no matter how strong the dragon creatures in this world are, they can be stronger than us soldiers who can fight against 10,000 alone." Cao Cao was indeed confident. It wasn't that he looked down on this world. Before he came, the think tank beside him had already analyzed the general situation of this world. They thought that the strongest creature in this world might be very strong. After all, it was the final enemy of this event dungeon. But the ancestor god definitely wouldn't tolerate a creature that was much stronger than them appearing in this world. Otherwise, the ancestor god wouldn't have sent down this event dungeon to train them. According to the energy density of this world, it's quite compatible with the mystic cultivators in our world. Generally, the energy density can represent the upper limit of a world in some aspects, the mystic cultivator said. However, Your Majesty, I vaguely feel that this world has a strong rule power restriction. But it seems that we don't have such restrictions. Cao Cao looked at him in surprise. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. It's just a feeling. It's precisely because I'm not sure that I can't say it." The mystic cultivator waved his hand lightly, and a white cloud appeared under his feet. He controlled Cao Cao. Look, when I use mystic techniques here, it's smooth and there's no obstruction at all. This is very strange. You have to know that since this place is the world of the dragon race, it shouldn't be so suitable for us humans to survive. However, we haven't seen humans from other worlds here, so we can't make a conclusion. Hearing this, Chow Chow narrowed his eyes and said, "Then let's just follow and take a look. When Yuan discovered so many dragons, there must be a war." Chapter 1860. The sky was dark, and the faint red light was like a curtain, pulling down from all directions. It looked like an ancient waterfall, but also like a wall that covered the entire world. Tang San was panting slightly. The Azura blood sword in his hand was dripping with blood of different colors. "I can't kill them all." Tang San shook his head and looked a bit tired. The dragons of the Dragon God realm weren't ridiculously strong either. At least, he could deal with them. But there were too many of them. This made it seem very unusual. There were many of them, and they were strong. Didn't they say that dragons had low reproductive abilities? Are these dragons really the descendants of the Dragon God? There are so many of them, and they're almost as strong. The 10,000 Dragons universe can easily change the entire world, and even change the abilities of these dragons. Tang San looked askance at the dragon as a bloody light burst from his sword. His body flashed, and the bloody light fell to the ground. A dragon claw as big as a mountain was cut off. I don't know how many dragons the Dragon God sowed in the past, but these dragons aren't pure at all, and yet they're so strong. Long Xie's blood-red hair danced in the wind as he sneered and looked a bit tired. It must be the doing of the 10,000 Dragons universe. I don't believe that the descendants of the Dragon God can produce so many dragons in just a few years, and they're all pretty strong too. The two sides fought for a long time. The more they fought, the more shocked they became. Although they were only here to check out the situation, the strength of the Dragon God realm was beyond their expectations. There were so many dragons lying in ambush here, and none of them were weak. Individually, they were as strong as a rank 2 or 3 god in the Douluo divine realm. But there were hundreds and thousands of them. And this was just the dragon warriors lying in ambush here. They were almost as many as the gods of the Douluo divine realm. "We can't keep fighting like this," Tang San said telepathically. "Let's retreat first. There are so many of them that we can't kill them all. If more reinforcements arrive, we'll be in even more trouble." Long Xie thought about it and felt that it made sense. In fact, he wasn't bound by the laws of the Dragon God realm, and he was even stronger than Tang San. However, the damage he caused to these dragons was not very effective. This was because these dragons seemed to have a special bloodline that allowed them to greatly resist harm from their own kind. Thankfully, he had the origin of blood. Relying on the power of the origin of blood, he was able to kill these dragon race beings endlessly. However, what Tang San said was not unreasonable. If this continued, even if the power of the origin could absorb power from the blood of these dragons and nourish itself, it would not be able to withstand the consumption of the power of the origin. At that time, once he was mentally exhausted and the dragon clan had follow-up pursuers, it would be troublesome. "I can't accept this," Long Xie sighed. "We've only just arrived at their doorstep, and we're already forced to go back. Tell me, as a dignified divine king of the divine world, wouldn't you lose a lot of face if you went back like this?" Tang San smiled and said, "It's because I'm the divine king. What I need to consider is the entire god realm. I can't let anything happen to me. If the dragon god realm invades my god realm en masse and something happens to me, wouldn't the situation be even worse?" Long Xie nodded. "Indeed. Then I'll help you hold them off for a while. You break open the wormhole first," Long Xie said. This place was no ordinary small world. Otherwise, they could have traveled through the void and returned to the god realm. The dragon god realm had changed a lot, so it could be considered a foreign land to them. It was not under the God realm's control, so it was very difficult for them to come and go as they pleased. Tang San was about to nod. At this moment, several giant dragons in the distance suddenly let out angry roars. Tang San was surprised. Something was wrong. Wait. Something doesn't seem right. Long Xie was also surprised. Then, the two of them saw a shocking scene. In the distance, a team of mysterious warriors emerged from the clouds and tore a hole in the huge blood-red curtain formed by the giant dragons, as though they were soldiers from the heavens. These mysterious warriors were all riding a red warhorse, but they were able to fight in the sky. Holding long spears made of unknown materials, they aimed at the dragons flying in the sky and fiercely stabbed at them. Flowing fire, ice spears, lightning, wind. Streaks of destructive attacks shot out from the mouths of the dragons in all directions. However, the mysterious warriors didn't seem to care at all. It was as if the attacks were completely ineffective against them. It was as if a divine soldier had descended from the heavens, attacking from the heavens and destroying the terrain formed by the giant dragons in an instant. Tang San and Long Xie exchanged a glance. Is the dragon god realm not limited to just the dragon race? Long Xie was surprised. Where did these warriors come from? Why are they so strong? Look at their formation. They're clearly a human army. But how can there be such powerful warriors among the human race? Even the current top-tier powerhouses of the Douluo continent are far inferior to him. I don't think they're humans of our universe. Tang San thought for a moment. But strangely enough, they're surrounded by a layer of faint golden light. It seems like they're not bound by the laws of this place. They're not bound by any laws when they attack. It's probably because they're protected by a powerful expert. Long Xie saw it too. That was indeed the case. Let's take a look first, Long Xie said. Tang San nodded slightly. Now that something unexpected had happened, they didn't want to leave. More and more warriors began to pour out of the torn curtain. A few of them caught Tang San and Long Xie's attention. One of them was wielding a huge blade. He looked like a general, and he was especially strong. No one knew what kind of power he wielded, but he was able to knock down a giant dragon every time. Although he was starting to get injured, his willpower was as strong as iron. However, his willpower was like steel, and even his movements did not change at all. The other warrior was even more muscular. He wielded a one-handed hammer, and it looked like he could uproot the heavens and shake the earth. Even the giant dragon that was several thousand meters long was sent flying by a single swing of his hammer. The violent power he wielded was extremely shocking. It didn't take long for the tear in the curtain to grow bigger and bigger. There were tens of thousands of well-trained warriors, and they cut down every giant dragon in the sky. Then, they slowly separated the giant dragons and started killing them again. In just a few dozen breaths, as one giant dragon after another fell to the ground, the giant dragons began to flee in all directions. Interesting. These warriors aren't very strong individually, Tang San said telepathically. Tang San transmitted his voice. In fact, he hasn't even grasped the power of the origin. But when they work together, they can unleash such great power. Their fleshly bodies and weapons are extremely powerful, even stronger than the fleshly bodies of us gods. This caused Tang San to be extremely surprised. Chapter 1861. The power of the origin was extremely powerful. He could kill these warriors with a wave of his hand if they were alone. But if they worked together, they could kill even a first or second level god. Most importantly, there were a lot of them. The two generals were the strongest among them. Even though they hadn't mastered the power of the origin, they wielded their weapons. However, the weapons they used all contained great power, and each of their moves contained extremely terrifying power. It was a very strange sight. The leader behind them must be extraordinary to be able to raise so many experts, Tang San said. These warriors weren't bound by the laws of the Dragon God realm, and they were so powerful when they worked together. I'm itching for a fight. Long Xie coughed a couple of times. These people are pretty strong. I'm not their match even if they work together. That being said, I think those two are the only ones who can fight them alone. However, after the Dragon Clan fled, the Dragon Clan, the blood-red curtain that looked like a barrier started to fade away. He saw that the mysterious warriors were surrounding him from all directions. It was almost as if they were the ones who had surrounded the dragons just now. Holy shit, there are so many of them? Long Xie looked around and was stunned. This is a little ridiculous. Not only are these humans strong, but there are so many of them as well? Tang San couldn't help but shiver. It was at this moment. A voice exploded from the sky. Who are you? A low, muffled voice rang out. Unknowingly, the man with the giant hammer had already arrived in front of them on his warhorse. And who are you? Long Xie asked. Everyone in the Dragon God realm is a dragon. The large man looked at Long Xie and Tang San in surprise. Could it be that you're the allies His Majesty spoke of? Just the two of you? Tang San's heart skipped a beat. These humans had allies? He exchanged a glance with Long Xie. Tang San said, We are also part of the human race. I wonder if we can meet with your Majesty? This is the Dragon God realm, and it's extremely dangerous. We know a thing or two about it. All right, I'll go back and report this to His Majesty. The big man sized up the two of them. He wasn't stupid. Before they attacked, those dragons were clearly fighting. Since there was no one else here, it could only be a suitable place for these two to fight. To be able to fight with so many dragons and only two of them, this was enough to show that they were very powerful. Since they were all humans, they naturally couldn't become enemies. After a short while, Cao Cao and his many strategists and generals walked over. This is the Son of Heaven of the Great Way. Su Chu's roar was like a dragon's roar as he introduced to Cao Cao. Who are you? Cao Cao narrowed his eyes and glanced at the two of them. They were not allies. Because the positioning was wrong. These two people probably had other backgrounds. The Emperor of Great Way? Tang San frowned slightly. Could it be the Emperor of the mortal world? That's not right. How could a mortal emperor's warrior have such powerful strength? Unless the level of power in the human world over there was extremely high. An emperor of a dynasty had personally come to this world. No wonder these warriors were so powerful. Tang San paused momentarily before replying. I am Tang San, the godly king of the Douluo divine realm. This is my follower, Long Xie. The Dragon God realm originally wanted to invade our realm, so I came here to see what the situation was like. I didn't expect to be surrounded by so many dragons as soon as I entered. May I know why you came to this world? The godly king of the God realm? Cao Cao's eyelids twitched. Their origins were extraordinary. Since they were from the God realm, they were probably not simple. As a godly king, they were probably extraordinarily strong. As if recalling something, Cao Cao laughed and said, So you are the godly king of the God realm. I am the Son of Heaven of the Great Way, but I received the favor of my God and was sent to this world to train myself. It is because of my God's favor that I can display such great strength in this world. My God's name is the Ancestor God. Hearing this, Tang San and Long Xie were even more shocked. Ancestor God? Tang San sent a sound transmission. The Son of Heaven of the Great Way is backed by another god? No wonder they are able to display their full strength without being restricted by the laws of the Dragon God realm, even though they haven't even mastered their origin power. This Ancestor God can help them avoid the restrictions of the Dragon God realm. I'm afraid he is as strong as the 10,000 Dragons universe. Ancestor God. Long Xie muttered. They believe in gods. They worship gods, and these humans are so strong. Is this Ancestor God from the God realm that boss is going to face? Tang San's heart skipped a beat. He knew about the matter between Big Brother Feng and that God system universe. After all, the Holy Scroll was signed in the Douluo divine realm. Due to the chaotic flow of time, the god of the divine system universe had originally wanted to invade the Douluo divine world. Later, he fought Brother Feng and started the War of the Gods. Tang San naturally learned about it later. He didn't expect to meet another god of that god realm here. Is this god realm that powerful? Tang San sent a sound transmission. The Son of Heaven of the Great Way worships the ancestor god. In other words, he is only one of the ancestor god's believers, but he already has such a strong force. Isn't that ancestor god even more terrifying? Long Xie shrugged. We can use this opportunity to defeat the dragon god realm, Long Xie said. The ancestor god used the dragon god realm as a trial for his believers, and it looks like the Son of Heaven of the Great Way isn't the only one. We might even be able to deal a heavy blow to the dragon god realm. We won't have to trouble you then, boss. Long Xie suggested. Makes sense. Tang San agreed. At the same time, Cao Cao was also sizing up Tang San and Long Xie. Seeing that the two people's attitudes and expressions had changed to different degrees after they revealed the name of the ancestor god, he calmed down a little. The ancestor god was actually very strong. It looked like the god kings of the god realm were starting to fear him. It couldn't be helped. The two of them were surrounded by so many dragons, but they were still alive. They were probably very strong. If a fight broke out, they would probably suffer heavy losses. Cao Cao didn't dare to underestimate the ancestor god, so he decided to use the ancestor god's name. It made the ancestor god realm wary. After all, I have a backer too. Cao Cao knew that he had left the god realm. He had to be more careful when he went to other worlds. The ancestor god didn't say anything. The event dungeon this time had a certain level of difficulty. No one knew what kind of experts they would run into in the dragon god realm. The god realm has been invaded, and you came to the dragon god realm to gather information. I'm sure you know more about this place than we do. Why don't we travel together? Cao Cao narrowed his eyes. I think the dragon god realm is our common enemy, right? Plus, we have allies. Based on the information you've provided, I think it'll be good for both of us. Tang San calmed down and exchanged a look with Long Xie. That's exactly what we were thinking, he replied with a smile. Allies? He wondered how strong their allies were. Chapter 1862. At the same time, on the other side of the dragon god realm. So this is the dragon god realm? Yi Fan looked at the vast and boundless world. He looked excited. Not bad, it was much better than the eastern wasteland. This could be seen from the plants in the surroundings and the spiritual energy in the air. Let's not talk about anything else. Just by cultivating here, my cultivation speed should be 2 times faster. Yi Fan took a deep breath. He didn't bring many people with him, only about 300 or so. Yi Fan knew that this number was nothing compared to Ying Zheng and Cao Cao, who could bring tens of thousands of troops with them. But these people were the elites he persuaded after he founded the ancestral god school. There were many elites from the eastern wasteland sacred ground and the big families among them. Everyone, let's move within a 5-kilometer radius for now. We'll move together after we figure out the situation. Yi Fan said after thinking for a while. He planned to share the location of this place with the group first. This was a group activity, not a solo activity. The Dragon God realm was an extremely large world. Although the ancestral god said that it was an active dungeon. But if they really treated it as a dungeon, they would be at a great disadvantage. The spirit energy in this world was so dense that it was bound to give birth to extremely powerful beings. Yi Fan wasn't arrogant enough to think that he could defeat the strongest beings in this world with just these people. Following Yi Fan's order, the many young experts from Shrouding Heaven's world began to explore the surroundings with great interest. With their speed, they would be able to traverse a radius of 10 miles in a few dozen breaths at most if they were to move normally. But if they searched carefully, even if they had to collect every flower and plant in this world, it would take a lot of effort. A moment later, Yi Fan had a rough idea of the nearby landscape and situation. He immediately sent a message in the group. Fan Yi, everyone, I'm already in the Dragon God realm. I've brought about 300 people with me. My current location is surrounded by a grassland. There are many wild flowers and fruits growing here. These flowers and fruits all contain a very rich spiritual energy. I plan to rest here for a while before setting off. If you see the grassland, please tell me. Where are you? Yi Fan's message appeared. Immediately, the rest of the people started to send messages. Yong and Pon's waiter. I'm alone. Fan Yi, you actually brought 300 people with you? How did you bewitch so many people? Fan Yi said, get lost. I built the ancestral god school and, for the sake of points, I recruited many believers for the ancestral god. What is a mere 300 people? If it was over there, I could raise at least 1,000 people with a wave of my arm. The waiter of the Eternal Peace pawn shop said, so that's how it is. This place is too dangerous, and it has a close relationship with the ancestor god. I didn't tell my friend about it. However, my current location, is on top of a cliff. Moreover, I think I saw an egg at the edge of the cliff. A super huge egg that's 10 times bigger than me? There seems to be an endless abyss below the cliff. It's very scary. There's also a cliff behind me, and there's no way to go. Yi Fan was taken aback and almost laughed out loud. The waiter was really unlucky. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Young man Ji, don't be afraid, but I suggest you find a place to hide as soon as possible. The egg you saw was most likely a dragon egg from this world. The dragons in this world were extremely powerful. Since you saw this dragon egg, you will definitely encounter a powerful dragon. You have just grasped the essence, and have yet to fully understand where its strength lies. It will be very difficult for you to defeat such a powerful life form. The waiter of the Eternal Peace pawn shop said, all right. Where are you? To Shi Ancient God Jade said, Xiao Yen Ji, and my luck seems to be quite good. We are in a cave. There is an extremely powerful huge dragon that controls the strength of a flame within this cave. Xiao Yen Ji and I spent a great deal of effort to defeat it, after which we discovered that there is actually a wisp of mysterious flame within this cave. This flame is extremely powerful, even more powerful than the heavenly flame in our world. Not only is the temperature extremely high, it can also corrode the mind. Brother Xiao Yen and I named this flame Heart-Eroding Earth Flame. With this flame, our Qi method has once again leveled up and become even stronger. We plan to train again. Above the cave is a deep and dense forest. The forest is scarlet red in color. It seems that it has been infected by the flame here. We plan to leave immediately and find a safer place to train again. Otherwise, that huge flame dragon might come back. Hearing this, Yi Fan's mouth twitched. These two fellows were really lucky. Compared to the waiter, the difference was like heaven and earth. The waiter of the Eternal Peace pawn shop said, Envy. JPG. Everyone, what about you guys? I want to see if there is anyone more miserable than me. After a while, Ghostly said, I don't seem to be doing too well here. Fan Yi said, it's here. If it's not too good, then it's super good. Brother Ghostly, am I right? Comic. JPG. Ghostly said, this is really not the case. I also met a few huge dragons in a swamp. Those huge dragons were extremely powerful, basically comparable to the immortal I met before. Their entire bodies were scarlet black, and their auras were extremely powerful. When I came over from the teleportation gate, I just happened to see those huge dragons fighting. When immortals fight, mortals suffer. I am a mortal, so I naturally suffered as well. I couldn't see the tails of those huge dragons. Just dealing with one of them would be difficult. There were 7 or 8 of them. They seemed to be divided into 2 factions. Any one of their dragon breaths could cover an area of a few hundred miles. Helpless, I could only use a kind of turtle breathing technique to sink myself into the swamp. But even so, that swamp contained an evil and jealous energy. The huge suction force almost caused me to be unable to get out. But this swamp was also not ordinary. After I sank into it, I actually didn't suffer any injuries from the aftermath of the battle between the huge dragons. After a long time, until I really couldn't hold on any longer, I barely managed to get out of the swamp. At that time, I really only had 1 breath left. At this point, Ghostly paused. Fan Yi said, I understand. You came up to pick up the corpses, right? Did you find those huge dragon corpses the moment you floated up from the swamp? Ghostly said, awkward. JPG. The waiter of the Eternal Peace pawn shop said, so, you are right? She Ancient God Jade said, oh my, then the huge dragon in the underground cavern that Brother Xiao Yan and I met should be very powerful. But Brother Xiao Yan and I could only chase it away. It was too difficult to kill it. But I feel that the huge dragon should be full of treasures. Just those tough dragon scales alone, even a Tian-level battle technique wouldn't be able to hurt it. That's enough to see its value. Wait, pick up the corpses? Xiao Sun Er seemed to have just reacted. Chapter 1863. Ghostly, about that. I probably saw the corpses of a few giant dragons. By the way, I seem to have found out why they were fighting. Fan Yi, don't tell me that they were fighting over some kind of natural treasure in that place? Ghostly, awkward. JPG, Fan Yi. F***CK. Brother Ghostly, your luck is too amazing. When the sandpiper and clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Tell me, what is it? Ghostly, it seems to be a piece of bone. This bone is emitting an extremely powerful aura. I don't know what it is for now, but I have a picture that I can upload for you to see. In order to share their location, they would usually upload pictures or short videos of their location and share them. The bone in the picture was extremely huge, even bigger than Ghostly's entire body. At first glance, it seemed to be the bone of an extremely huge life form. The bone emitted an ancient and ferocious aura, and there was even a faint purple aura lingering around it. At first glance, one could tell that it was most likely the remains of a giant dragon. Eternal Peace Shop's employee. It doesn't seem to be of any use to you? It should be for those giant dragons, right? Ghostly, that's why I said that I'm not too good. I have no use for this treasure at all. Fan Yi, ask the ancestor god. They were stunned and only then did they remember. Ghostly immediately sent a message to ask the ancestor god. Ancestral realm. Master, this thing seems to be. Yan Mengyao looked at the picture sent by Ghostly. Wang Feng glanced at it, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He smiled and said, it's the remains of the dragon god. To be more precise, it's the bone that the dragon god shed when he cultivated back then. Even now, it still contains some of the dragon god's power. To the dragons of this world, it's a supreme treasure that can improve their bloodline. Yan Mengyao instantly understood. So that was the case. It's not very useful to them. Wang Feng pondered for a moment and said, however, the remains of the dragon god contain the genetic code of the dragon god. Those giant dragons also have this genetic secret. From this, we can see some of the secrets of the 10,000 Dragons universe. Looks like it's time to release a point reward system to them. In the chat group, Ancestor God. This is the remains of the Dragon God, the creator of the Dragon God. It's extremely helpful to the dragons of this world. It's almost useless to human cultivators. This item could be offered directly in exchange for points. Now that all of you have entered the Dragon God Realm, it is time to announce the point system for the Dragon God Realm's event dungeons. First, anything in this world can be directly offered in exchange for points according to its value. Secondly, you can use your own strength to kill the life forms of this world. Depending on the strength of the dragon you kill, you can obtain different points. 3. Become stronger in this world and strengthen yourself. You can also obtain points. Fourthly, the ancestor god of this world has given you a chance to avoid death. Treasure it well, but it will consume all the points. 5. By changing the course of this world, you can obtain a large number of points. The so-called changes, every blade of grass, every tree, the dragon clan's faith, their value, the world's power, the leader's first kill, and so on, are all considered to affect the progress of this world. Wang Feng listed a lot of rules for accumulating points. In any case, as long as one was alive in the Dragon God realm, they would be able to earn points even if they did nothing but quietly find a place to cultivate. It could be considered a great benefit. However, he could only obtain a small number of points. If he wanted to obtain a large number of points, he would still need to explore the Dragon God realm. Ghostly. So, I can directly offer these things in exchange for points? That's great. I was just worried about how to use these things. Also, those giant dragons are too big. My storage ring can't even hold them. Ancestor God. Sure. Ghostly didn't say anything else and sacrificed all these things. The dragon god's remains were useless to him. As for those giant dragons on the verge of death, he couldn't take them away. Although Ghostly knew that these giant dragons were full of treasures, he also knew that there were definitely more good things in the dragon god realm, and the points he could exchange for them could be used to strengthen himself immediately. Ding, Ghostly has sacrificed 5 semi-god giant dragon corpses and a dragon god's remains. The reward is 200,000 points. A crisp notification sound immediately rang out in the group. After Wang Feng was done giving out the rewards, he left the group and let them slowly digest the news. In the chat group, Fan Yi, fuck brother Ghostly, wait a moment, I'll come find you immediately. Your luck is simply too good. We've just started and you've already obtained 200,000 points. I'm vomiting blood. Ghostly. Cough cough, thank you for the ancestor god's gift. After all, the things we obtained can be sacrificed to the ancestor god to exchange for point. If it wasn't for the ancestor god's gift, I reckon that I can only look at them and not take anything away. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. Don't say any more, I'm going to steal the dragon eggs now. Fuck, am I really the one with the worst luck? The worker had just finished sending the message. Suddenly, Li Feiyu. I feel that I might be the one with the worst luck. Now, Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. Eyes brightened. JPG. Brother Feiyu, what do you think? Li Feiyu. Cough cough, I think. I'm in a dragon palace, shivering. JPG. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. Fuck. Fan Yi. Fuck. Tu Shi Ancient Emperor's Jade. Fuck. Ghostly. Shocked face inside a dragon palace? Dragon palace. Could it be inside a palace built by these dragons? Li Feiyu. Yes, that's right. To be precise, it's inside a dragon city. This dragon city is extremely huge, and the building in the center is the dragon palace. The buildings here are extremely huge, and I'm just like a dwarf here. Even a single dragon scale of those dragons is several times bigger than mine. How sad. Fan Yi, brother, you're meeting the final boss right from the start. We're all in the outer regions, and most of them are barren. You've already reached the headquarters of those dragons? Are you alright? Li Feiyu, cough cough. How can I be alright? When I was teleported here, I happened to be in the home of a dragon. Luckily, this dragon wasn't at home. I relied on my physique to hide my aura, and I was afraid that it wouldn't be safe, so I immediately went to the Divine Hunt activity pool and used my remaining points to exchange for a hidden Heavenly Stars talisman. This talisman is worth tens of thousands of points, and it can only last for a few hours. It should be able to transmit all the information about me. I have to say that the items of the Ancestor God are really awesome. Using the hidden Heavenly Stars talisman, I carefully walked out of the dragon's home. Then, I circled around for half a day, thinking that I could get out of Dragon City. In the end, I found myself in the core region of Dragon City, the Dragon Palace. Luckily, the Ancestor God is really awesome. I'm currently in a corner of the Dragon Palace. There are too many dragons here, and they are densely packed. There are tens of thousands of dragons guarding outside the Dragon Palace. They didn't discover me. Can you believe it? Right now I am a gold core stage cultivator, but I'm panicking now. The effect of the hidden Heavenly Stars talisman seems to only last for half a day. Not to mention Dragon City, I'm already confused inside the Dragon Palace. I can't even walk out. I'm in a daze. They were probably shocked by Li Feiyu's encounter. Everyone was speechless. Everyone. Chapter 1864. Everyone in the group was probably shocked by Li Feiyu's words. Li Feiyu was the only one who had a very complicated journey. Even though he had obtained a very simple one, it was easy to imagine how dangerous it was. Li Feiyu was directly teleported into the city of the dragon race. With his strength, he would have died if he met any dragon. But not only did he not die, he even walked out. However, he went in the opposite direction and went straight to the Dragon Palace. Now it would be difficult for him to walk. Fan Yi, F***ck Brother Feiyu, you are really exciting. But don't panic, you have the hidden cycle stars now. This is a good item from the God Hunter activity pool. It is worth tens of thousands of points and is a treasure given by the Ancestor God. It is definitely not something that the dragons can see through. You are now in the Dragon Palace. Since this is the palace of the Dragon City, it means that the strongest and nobles of the dragon race are here. There must be many treasures in this Dragon Palace. Danger and opportunity coexist for you now. Make good use of the hidden cycle stars and search for treasures in the Dragon Palace. These treasures may not be of use to you now, but you can exchange them for points. Then use the points to exchange for the hidden cycle stars talisman and continue to steal treasures. Yi Fan became more and more excited as he spoke. This was the nesting doll. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. Ah, this can be done? Tu Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Fan Yi, you are too mixed up. If this method fails, then all the treasures in the Dragon Palace will be stolen by Li Feiyu. Anyway, he may not be of use to those dragon race treasures. Once he gets them, he will sacrifice them for point. Ghostly, I don't think it will be that easy. Even if you use the hidden cycle stars, those dragons are not fools. Once they realize that something is stolen, they will be several times more alert. Even if they don't notice Brother Feiyu, they will definitely set up many restrictions. If you use this method once or twice, it is best to leave the Dragon Palace. This is to prevent any accident. At this time, in the Dragon God Realm, in the Dragon Palace of the Dragon City. This Dragon City was called the 10,000 Dragon City. It was the center of the Dragon God Realm, just like the capital of the Douluo God Realm. It was the core of the Dragon God Realm. The strongest dragon race in the Dragon God Realm had gathered here. They were the most numerous and the strongest race in the Dragon God Realm. The core of the 10,000 Dragon City was the Dragon Palace. At the same time, in a corner of Dragon Palace, Hanli was hiding in a bush that was over 10 meters tall. To the dragons, this was nothing more than a bush. But to him, even this kind of grass was no less than a maze. I am but a mere golden core cultivator. Hanli didn't dare to move in fear of what was happening outside. A bitter smile appeared on his face. He wanted to come over and follow these big brothers in the group. He wanted to do odd jobs behind the scenes, pick up scraps, and broaden his horizons. Who would have thought that things would turn out this way? Was he directly teleported here? What is this place? Han Li thought to himself with trepidation. He had just seen a relatively small dragon that was only about 100 meters long. It was the weakest one he had ever seen. However, when it was playing in this fake mountain and fake forest, it could knock down a fake mountain that was over 100 feet tall with just a flick of its tail. Although it was called a fake mountain, in Han Li's eyes, it was more realistic than a real mountain. In any case, if that tail had landed on his body, Han Li reckoned that his soul would have flown off to meet the ancestor god. However, what they said seems to be somewhat reasonable. Han Li pondered. The heavenly cycle star concealment talisman was a product of the ancestor god. He carried it with him and foolishly walked around for half a day, but not a single dragon discovered him. Even after wandering around the dragon palace for a while, not a single dragon discovered him. A product of the ancestor god was trustworthy. Fan Ye's words are reasonable. Ghost Li's words are also reasonable. Han Li pondered for a moment. He had clearly seen the point rules that the ancestor god had just announced. This was the dragon palace. There were bound to be a lot of treasures. If he could take advantage of this opportunity to obtain 1 or 2 treasures, regardless of whether it was for himself or for some points, this trip would be worth it. But the heavenly cycle star concealment talisman has a time limit. I don't have much time left and I am not familiar with this dragon palace, Han Li pondered. This dragon palace was incomparably large. He estimated that it was several times larger than the scattered star seas. From the side, it could be seen that this dragon god realm was extremely vast and had no boundaries. With such a large dragon palace, there were no roads. If he were to wander around randomly, he wouldn't be able to find any treasures. If I can understand the conversations of the dragons, perhaps, Han Li's heart stirred. These dragons were conversing in a special dragon language that he couldn't understand at all. I wonder if there is a dragon language in the prize pool of the God Hunt event. Han Li immediately opened the prize pool of the God Hunt event in his mind and searched for the dragon language. Soon after, Han Li's eyes lit up. He actually found it. However, it wasn't the dragon language. Language resonance technique. Spiritual mantra. Once you learn this technique, you will be able to automatically transform the languages of the myriad races into your own consciousness. You will be able to comprehend the principles and automatically become proficient in the myriad races' languages. Apart from spiritual sense transmission, it only costs 5,000 points. Han Li exchanged for it without hesitation. He sat down cross-legged and immediately comprehended this technique. After a short moment, Han Li opened his eyes and several voices suddenly appeared in his mind. Humph! Our dragon race has already gathered 100,000 divine dragon soldiers. We are just waiting to slaughter our way into the Douluo divine world and take revenge for our dragon ancestor. His Majesty, the Golden Dragon Emperor, is a peerless dragon. His strength has already surpassed that of the dragon ancestor. I think that His Majesty alone will be able to sweep through the entire Douluo divine world. Speaking of which, it should be the 3 Dragon Lords' turn to receive the baptism of the Myriad Dragon Pearl today, right? Before His Majesty, the Golden Dragon Emperor, returned to the Dragon God realm, the 3 Dragon Lords were peak powerhouses of our Dragon God realm. After receiving the baptism of the Myriad Dragon Pearl, their strength may be second only to His Majesty, the Golden Dragon Emperor. The Myriad Dragon Pearl is a rare treasure that His Majesty, the Golden Dragon Emperor, brought back. It can bestow upon our dragon race the power of a god. Unfortunately, our bloodlines are weaker and our aptitude is lacking. We can only receive the baptism of the 1,000 Dragon Pearl. The low dragon roars turned into strands of thought and entered Han Li's mind. Han Li couldn't hear them before. But after learning the spiritual mantra, not only could Han Li hear them, he could even understand them. Myriad Dragon Pearl. Han Li caught the keyword. The Myriad Dragon Pearl bestows upon the dragon race the power of a god. It is definitely a supreme treasure of the Dragon Palace. However, a treasure like that would definitely be heavily guarded. If I wanted to steal it, they would definitely be heavily guarded. It will be difficult to steal. Hanli muttered to himself for a moment. However, he didn't need to think to know that if he were to sacrifice this item, he would be able to obtain quite a few points. Previously, Ghostly had sacrificed several huge dragon corpses and a bone fragment to obtain a 5-digit number of points. The Myriad Dragon Pearl would definitely be more than that. Huge risks were accompanied by huge rewards. Chapter 1865. I'll just go and take a look. Let's see what they look like first. Hanli thought. In the chat group, Li Feiyu, everyone, I've thought it through. Now, just wait for my good news. With that, he went offline. Everyone, to Shi Ancient Emperor Jade, I'm very curious now. I wonder what Big Brother Feiyu will do? Fan Yi, don't worry. With the Ancestor God's protection, nothing will happen. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. Speaking of which, what about the two big brothers? The big brothers that Jing Tian was referring to were naturally Ying Zheng and Chao Chao. Just as he finished speaking, a message came from the crowd. No one can betray me. I've sacrificed 30 giant dragon corpses and received 2 million points. Everyone, Fan Yi, F***CK Brother Chao, did you poke a dragon's nest? Where did you get so many giant dragon corpses? The points are so high, with an average of 40,000 per corp. These giant dragons aren't simple. Ghostly, they're too strong. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. When we were still working hard to hide, the two big brothers were already killing giant dragons as if they were dogs. I'm envious. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. I wonder how many troops the two big brothers brought. This is too exaggerated. After waiting for them to discuss for a while, Chao Chao leisurely sent a message. No one can betray me. Sigh, even though I sacrificed so many giant dragon corpses, I also paid a huge price for that piece of land. Fan Yi, that's true. These giant dragons are so strong. Brother Chao, with your strength, you must have lost a lot of troops, right? No one can betray me. We did lose a lot of troops. A few dozen of my soldiers were injured. Fan Yi, everyone. Fan Yi, Brother Chao, it's wrong of you to be so full of yourself. Angry. JPG, you're not just picking up scraps, right? No one can betray me. I'll stop teasing you guys. Can't be called picking up scraps. No one can betray me. To be precise, I met the enemy of my enemy. I met two divine kings who claimed to be from the God realm. They brought their friends to the Dragon God realm to inquire about the Dragon God realm. When we arrived, this God King and his friends had already been engaged in a fierce battle with these dragons for a long time. We will take advantage of the situation to surround these dragons and then kill them. We've been conserving our strength and honing our strength. Coupled with the fact that there are so many of us, those giant dragons were caught off guard and suffered heavy losses. Chao Chao spoke the truth. However, it was truly a loss. Only a few soldiers were injured. However, it wasn't dozens but thousands. Those dragons were not to be trifled with. Luckily, among the mystic cultivators that Chao Chao had brought, there were military musicians with strong healing abilities, so these soldiers would not die. However, the gains were far greater than the losses. Fan Yi, Holy F***K, God King of the Divine World? Old Brother Chao, how did you meet someone like this? Your fortuitous encounters are too amazing. Yong and Pawn Shop's waiter. It seems like I'm the most miserable one now. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Don't be anxious, little fellow. Big Brother 10,000 years hasn't come out to speak yet. Borrow another 1,000 years from the heavens. Phew, I just came up. The situation here is still acceptable. No one in the world can't let me down, sure. That God King from the God realm you met didn't do anything to you? No one in the world can't let me down. What a joke. The moment I mentioned the name of the ancestor god, they only wanted to ally with us. How could they have any other thoughts? However, this god-king from the god realm is very strong. Just now, he and that friend of his took on dozens of giant dragons without being at a disadvantage. He's much stronger than us. Moreover, he's an expert who has grasped a powerful origin. Most importantly, he seems to know the dragon god realm better than us. In any case, he knows more than us. Now that we've gained 2 allies, we're planning to find a suitable place to settle down first. What about you guys? Borrow another 1,000 years from the heavens. I've already set up camp here. To be precise, when we came out of the teleportation gate, our location is still okay. It's a valley filled with all kinds of spirit fruits and spirit ores. I think this place is not bad. Let's settle down first. One of the heads of the farmers here said that the soil here is very special and it can grow many rare crops. The surrounding spirit ores can also be used to forge even more powerful weapons. It just so happens that the 100 schools of thought have brought a few of them over. Therefore, I plan to plant some crops in this valley. We'll develop it first and let our great Qin soldiers improve their strength and change their weapons. Ying Zheng casually typed out these few sentences. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. Even Chow Chow couldn't help but twitch a few times. He didn't even need to think to know that this fellow must have found a treasure land. They could just cultivate in this treasure land. In any case, the ancestor god didn't say how long this event dungeon would take. The longer they stayed here, the more they could feel the uniqueness of this world. Other than the rare resources they had never seen before, just the density of the spirit energy here was something their own world couldn't compare to. Therefore, even if they didn't explore and just cultivated in this world, it was all earned. One had to know that among the points awarded by the ancestor god, cultivating and developing oneself could also earn some points. Moreover, this was a method with a long history. Once all kinds of resources were cultivated through cultivation, the points earned were also many. More importantly, this method of earning points was too safe. The risk was almost the lowest. Borrowing 10,000 years from the heavens. I'll take a picture of the exact location later. If you know where it is, feel free to come and seek refuge with me. I welcome you. However, although this valley is a treasure land, it seems that the surroundings are all dangerous. Wait for me to wipe out everything within 1,000 miles of this place. Hurry up and come over. Ying Zheng finished his words heroically. Yangon pawn shop's worker. I want to be the first to come. This world is too dangerous. I feel that I won't be able to survive a single day. Sigh, I'm going to exchange for a heavenly cycle star concealment card and secretly steal dragon eggs. Everyone, please wish me good luck. Fan Yi, old brother Ying Zheng, I want to seek refuge with you. Wait for me. To She Ancient Emperor Jade. I plan to stay in the underground warehouse and absorb the flames with brother Xiao Yan before coming to find you. Ghostly, I can come over now. This swamp is too dangerous. I have to leave quickly. No one in the world can't let me down. I don't want to farm. I plan to find the city-states of the dragon race and use them to support me. Fan Yi, it's not that you don't want to. You don't have the chance. Just like that, everyone had different encounters in the dragon god realm. Wang Feng quietly watched from the side of the ancestral realm. Not long after. Just like that, everyone had different encounters in the dragon god realm. Wang Feng quietly watched from the side of the ancestral realm. Not long after. Chapter 1866. Ancestral Realm. Wang Feng's eyes flickered with the primordial chaos source. The giant dragon that Gui Li had offered earlier seemed to have shrunk hundreds of times and was in the form of a model. It was shrouded and disintegrated in the primordial chaos source. A moment later, Wang Feng's eyes flickered. The primordial chaos source gradually disappeared. Wang Feng opened his palm, and a few lifelike giant dragon models appeared in his hand. These giant dragons were very interesting. Their appearance was 70% similar to the dragons of the desolate universe recorded in the Chaos Bell. They were not winged dragons. But Wang Feng knew that the dragon god's appearance back then was leaning towards those winged dragons. Wang Feng had seen the true body of the silver dragon before. It looked like that, but its entire body was silver and extremely beautiful. However, these giant dragons did not have wings, and their bodies were also very similar to the dragons of the desolate world. This was interesting. The dragon god realm was created by the dragon god back then, and the dragons here were all the descendants of the dragon god. Even if the dragon god had 9 sons, each of them was different. Coupled with time, there would also be mutations. But wasn't the difference too big? Wang Feng could only find 30% of the dragon god's shadow on these giant dragons. And this 30% was on the pair of dragon claws. In fact, Long Xie's body was 90% similar to the dragon god, but its entire body was blood red. And in the Douluo divine world, there were also records of the dragon god, from its body to its abilities. Looks like this has a lot to do with the 10,000 Dragons universe. Wang Feng used the primordial chaos source to analyze the structure of these giant dragons. From their bodies to their abilities, he analyzed them one by one. Apart from finding something wrong with their bodies, in terms of abilities there was also a huge difference. These 4 giant dragons were all golden. Other than their claws that were similar to the dragon gods, their other forms were very similar to the 5-clawed golden dragon. And in the desolate world, the 5-clawed golden dragon was one of the 4 divine dragons of the dragon race. In terms of abilities, these giant dragons were all very powerful. Their bodies were almost comparable to the demon gods of the dark demon world. But their other abilities were much weaker, and they did not possess the power of origin. But with such a powerful body, a body comparable to a mountain and a Vajra defense, they were already able to surpass countless lives. Xie said that this dragon god also came from the 10,000 Dragons universe. However, the corpses of these dragons that had been offered up had been separated from the genes of the dragon god. The only thing that could change this was the 10,000 Dragons cosmos. However, so many things have changed. Wang Feng pondered for a few seconds. I wonder how the 10,000 Dragons universe changed these dragon god descendants. In fact, the material value of these giant dragon corpses was very small to him. They were not even worth a few thousand points. But Wang Feng gave ghostly tens of thousands of points. The key was that the information contained within the giant dragon itself was very special. In the ancestral realm, there were a few giant dragons among the innate demonic beasts. Later on, many dragons were born using the patterns of the primordial races in the primal chaos. These giant dragon corpses, Wang Feng pondered for a moment. The patterns of the billions of races in the chaos were not simple patterns. Instead, it was a genetic secret. If one could comprehend the patterns within, it would be equivalent to comprehending the entirety of this race. The demonic beast Dao reincarnation and the demonic beast clan were created by Wang Feng based on this point. He seemed to have thought of something. This is such a great physical body. It's not worth it to waste it like this. Wang Feng waved his hand. A light flashed on his fingertip. In an instant, these giant dragon models were like toys that had been connected to a power source. They gently twisted, and a pair of red candle-like dragon eyes slowly opened. Go, let's see if you imposters are more powerful than the demonic beasts I created based on the Chaos Bell's primordial demonic beast totem. Wang Feng muttered. He simply bestowed intelligence to these dead dragons. He allowed them to have the strength and wisdom they had when they were alive, but they were controlled by Wang Feng. Ancestral Realm. Mount Tianyao. Roar. The roar that shook the clouds spread throughout the entire Mount Tianyao. The clouds in the sky dispersed like waves. Several huge dragons soared down from the sky as if they had descended from the sky, emitting a monstrous, ferocious aura. At the same time, a few dragons of the same size quickly flew out of the Mount Tianyao. Wang Feng watched indifferently from above the clouds. It had been some time since the demonic beast clan was created. These demonic beasts had long lifespans, and their cultivation speed was not slow at all. In this mountain range, Wang Feng remembered that there were a few dragons that were born in this place, since they were dragons created from the patterns inside the Chaos Bell. The first batch that Wang Feng created back then was naturally one of the few most powerful dragon species among them. Torch Dragon, Bingy, Five-Clawed Golden Dragon, Winged Dragon. The one in the Mount Tianyao was a winged dragon. There were actually two types of winged dragons in the original primordial world. The first type of winged dragon was born from the ancestors of two flying animals in the primordial world. It was unique. It controlled clouds, rain, lightning, and rivers. It was a true heavenly dragon god. There was also another type that was cultivated by the ordinary dragon race. Its final form was the appearance of a true dragon, but it had a pair of wings. The one that Wang Feng created was naturally the first type, because the genes in the pattern were the simplest. Although the other pattern was easy to create, it required a long time to cultivate to evolve into such a powerful dragon. Wang Feng watched from the clouds. The winged dragon came out of the mountain and saw a few decent dragons descending from the sky. Naturally, it was not afraid at all. It faced them head-on and fought against them alone. The outcome of the battle was far beyond Wang Feng's expectations. The winged dragon killed the dragons that Wang Feng had temporarily regained their intelligence in a crushing manner. The reason why it was unexpected was because in Wang Feng's perception, the strength of the winged dragon was only slightly stronger than these dragons. Even if it won, it should be a Pyrrhic victory. However, the truth was that it was indeed a crushing defeat. After those dragons regained their intelligence, they were fearful during the battle, as if they were extremely afraid of the winged dragon. Their strength dropped by 50%. Wang Feng muttered, "It seems that this is a pure suppression of bloodline. These dragons are suppressed so miserably in their bloodlines." This was only the winged dragon. If these dragons were to fight with a real five-clawed golden dragon, who knew how suppressed they would be? The five-clawed golden dragon that Wang Feng created was not here. It had already flown to the human race. It was probably because there were some differences within the demonic beast race. As for the human race, after the human emperor, several powerful tribes were separated. In terms of ideology, there was a huge change. However, the only faith did not change because of this. Even if Wang Feng did not pay attention to it, he could feel it from the power of faith produced by these races. A few days later, more corpses of giant dragons were offered as offerings, and Wang Feng could see it. In terms of shape and ability, these dragons' corpses were only slightly similar to the dragon gods. But in other aspects, they were very similar to the dragons of the primitive world. There was even a dragon's corpse that was somewhat similar to the winged dragon of the heavenly demon mountain. It also had the appearance of a true dragon, but it had a pair of wings. This corpse was also offered by Cao Cao's side. It seemed to be killed by the Dragon God Realm's Dragon Emperor clan. Dragon Emperor was the Golden Dragon King's title after returning to the Dragon God Realm. The Dragon Emperor clan was the dragon race that had been transformed by the 10,000 Dragons Pearl. They were the dragon race that the Golden Dragon King valued the most. Chapter 1867. Wang Feng immediately carried out a deduction and analysis, and discovered that this giant dragon corpse of the Dragon Emperor clan contained some rain dragon genes. At this point, Wang Feng roughly understood the situation in the Dragon God Realm and the Myriad Dragons universe. Although he didn't know everything, he could guess most of it. He knew everything. Wang Feng didn't plan on directly interfering with their progress in the Dragon God Realm. Now that he had bestowed them with so many contribution points and the experience they had gained in the Dragon God realm, it was more than enough to increase the strength of these children of destiny by a large margin. At the very least, they would start to come into contact with the great Tao of origin. Among them, the one who took the most risks was actually the weakest. That was Hanli. In the chat group, Li Feiyu, everyone, I'm getting closer and closer to the Myriad Dragon Pearl. Next, I just need to steal it and offer it to the Ancestor God. I believe that this will be worth it. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Wow, Big Brother Feiyu, you finally appeared again. It's been a long time since you disappeared. How is the situation now? Following Han Li's appearance, everyone in the group sent their greetings and curiosity. Fan Yi, what is the Myriad Dragon Pearl? It sounds very powerful. Is it a treasure in the Dragon Palace? Eternal Peace Pawn Shop Assistant. With my many years of pawning experience, this is definitely a treasure among treasures. People can't betray me. Li Feiyu, I've already taken down several cities. If you fail, directly head south from Dragon City and come to a place called the Hidden Dragon Pond to find me. I guarantee your safety. Ghostly, you still have to be careful. The closer you get, the more dangerous it is. Another 10,000 years from the heavens. That's right. I've already completely occupied this valley. Everyone's cultivation speed is increasing rapidly. When the time comes, I plan to directly attack the Dragon Palace with Brother Under Heaven. Li Feiyu, many thanks everyone. Now that I'm only one step away from the Myriad Dragon Pearl, I'm a bit nervous. Fan Yi, since that's the case, tell us, what have you been doing during this period of time? Also, what is the Myriad Dragon Pearl? Hanli muttered to himself for a few seconds and began to recover. Li Feiyu, didn't you kill many huge dragons before? As far as I know, those dragons weren't that powerful in the beginning. According to the information I collected from the conversations of the dragons in the Dragon Palace these days, I analyzed it and found that it is at least 10 times weaker. At the same time, the Dragon God realm wasn't originally like this. It would be much smaller than it is now. All of this is because of the 10,000 Dragon Pearl brought by the current Dragon Emperor. Hearing this, Yi Fan was enlightened. Li Feiyu said, this 10,000 Dragon Pearl changed the Dragon God realm, and at the same time, it changed many dragons. He didn't know what kind of power this Myriad Dragon Pearl possessed, but it was able to transform these dragons into such powerful beings. The ones you killed before were all ordinary dragons. Those dragons were all transformed from the 1,000 Dragon Pearl. Only dragons recognized by the Dragon Emperor will be granted the right to be modified by the Myriad Dragon Pearl. This 10,000 Dragon Pearl is extremely powerful. It is located in the Ascending Dragon Palace Hall of the Dragon Palace. The Ascending Dragon Palace Hall is surrounded by the Dragon Emperor clan's colossal dragon guards that have been modified by the 10,000 Dragon Pearl. It can be said that it is extremely difficult to enter. No, that's impossible. With that said, Han Li's tone was very certain. If you want to enter, you must be personally led by the Dragon Emperor. Even if you have the Dragon Emperor's decree, it is impossible. The clerk of the Eternal Peace asked, then how do you get in? Everyone was also curious. The 10,000 Dragon Pearl was so powerful that it could be said to be the root of the Dragon God realm. How did Li Feiyu get it? Li Feiyu said, these days, I have been racking my brains and finally thought of a way. The method is very simple. Although I am currently using the Heavenly Cycle Star Concealment, it can only isolate my aura. It can't make me disappear from this world. The Ascending Dragon Palace is airtight, so I can't enter at all. At this time, I don't have many points left, so it is very difficult to exchange for other things to help me. In the Dragon Palace, there is no way I can kill these colossal dragons. The other treasures are also guarded by extremely powerful dragons, so it is impossible for me to steal them. Hearing this, everyone pondered in their hearts. How could they enter the ascending dragon palace? Steal the 10,000 dragon pearl? Later, when I was chanting scriptures for the ancestor god, I thought of a way. That is, I wrote a letter in the dragon race's language and handed it to the dragon emperor's bedroom. I also told him that I would come tonight to steal the 10,000 dragon pearl. Because the heavenly cycle star concealment has completely isolated my aura, even the dragon emperor can't detect it. Therefore, no dragon in the entire dragon palace can detect me. The dragon emperor was not surprised either. When he received the letter, he was disdainful at first. But then, he began to gather all the guards of the dragon palace and surrounded the ascending dragon palace with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. Hearing this, the clerk of the Eternal Peace said, "Then the dragon emperor was frightened by a letter? That can't be. Does the dragon emperor not have any intelligence at all?" Fanny said, "No, no, no, little clerk, think about it. If you are the dragon emperor." A letter suddenly appeared in his bedroom, but he did not notice it. Not only did he not notice it, the entire dragon palace did not notice it either. What would you think? He would definitely think that the person who delivered the letter could come and go as he pleased in his huge dragon palace. How scary would that be? If you were the dragon emperor and a mysterious guest who could come and go as he pleased said that he wanted to steal the 10,000 dragon pearl, wouldn't you panic? The clerk of the Eternal Peace said, "Holy shit, it seems like it. Brother Feiyu, you're really something." But your letter directly increased the strength of the ascending dragon palace's defenses by several levels. Can you still go in like this? Even if you go in, you won't be able to touch the 10,000 dragon pearl, right? Li Feiyu said, "That's right, the ascending dragon palace's defenses have been strengthened. But we already know that there are dragons in the dragon palace, so if the ascending dragon palace's defenses are strengthened, then it is inevitable that the defenses of the other places will be weakened, and there won't even be any dragons guarding them. Because to the Dragon Emperor and the Dragon God realm, the 10,000 dragon pearl is countless times more important than any treasure. Therefore, I took advantage of this opportunity to loot the Dragon Emperor's palace and found several precious treasures. I didn't even think about it and directly exchanged them for points. The treasures in the Dragon Emperor's bedroom are actually not very valuable, but they can still be exchanged for a lot of points. After that, I went to the other palaces of the Dragon Palace and plundered some treasures, until I exchanged them for 200,000 points. I didn't hesitate to exchange for the Universal Star Concealment Talisman's superior talisman, Universal Star Concealment, which is worth 200,000 points. It's extremely expensive. This talisman is amazing, it can hide everything, come and go without a trace, and it can pass through space and time. It's amazing, but it can only last for about 100 breaths, and it's limited to one purchase. After exchanging for it, I immediately used it. You might not know, but during the time I was sending messages to you, I had already quietly entered the Ascending Dragon Palace. And now I have this 10,000 dragon pearl in my hands. At the same time, ding, Li Feiyu uploaded a picture. Everyone. Awesome. The clerk of the Eternal Peace said, "Good fellow, Brother Feiyu, your method is a little strong. A single letter settled everything, how did you think of it?" Li Feiyu said, "Hehe, when I was thinking of a way before, wasn't I chanting scriptures and praying to the ancestor god?" Vaguely, the ancestor god seemed to give me a hint. When I came back to my senses, I didn't remember it. But I thought of this method. Everyone. Chapter 1868. Dragon God Realm, inside the Ascending Dragon Palace. Hanli wore a somewhat excited expression. At this moment, he was invisible and formless, surrounded by countless powerful dragons. Hanli was unable to describe the size of these dragons. Even the interior of the ascending dragon palace was comparable to an entire city to Hanli. He raised his head and saw countless dragons soaring in the sky. Within the hollow hall, there were countless dragon eyes staring at this place. On top of a square platform, there was a pearl as resplendent as a star floating in the air. Even from below, Hanli could see that the pearl seemed to contain all things flowing within it. A speck of starlight was slightly spinning like the universe. Hanli picked up the myriad dragon pearl and took a deep breath. Almost at the same time, the dragons let out fierce roars. The moment the myriad dragon pearl left its original position, the entire dragon palace seemed to boil. However, Hanli was very calm. The heavenly cycle divine concealment was a one-time use talisman. Hanli didn't know if this talisman existed in the immortal realm, but it was truly terrifying. A single use would cost over 200,000 points. A one-time use. It was impossible to use such a huge consumption without an equivalent value. Almost as soon as he touched the 10,000 dragon pearl, the entire 10,000 dragon pearl disappeared. No matter how the countless dragons outside roared, it didn't affect it in the slightest. Hanli was even in the mood to take a picture of the myriad dragon pearl and send it to the group. Time is almost up. It's time for me to become powerful. Hanli chuckled. To be honest, he didn't expect to be teleported to the Dragon City. He originally thought that he would die an untimely death in the Dragon God realm. He didn't expect that he would encounter such a fortuitous encounter. This myriad dragon pearl doesn't seem to be anything special. Hanli glanced at the myriad dragon pearl. When it was placed on top of the platform, he felt something. But when it fell into his hand, he found that he didn't feel anything. There was no change in energy either. It's just an ordinary pearl. Hanli coughed twice. He was too weak and couldn't feel the power of the myriad dragon pearl. As expected, a treasure of this level was completely useless in his hands. But, could it be that this myriad dragon pearl is just an ordinary pearl? Hanli thought with some unease. Was it just a trick that the Dragon Emperor used to deceive and win over the dragons? In reality, it was just a symbol. Cough cough, that shouldn't be the case. But if that was really the case, then wouldn't he have suffered a huge loss? Hanli hesitated for a moment before looking at the messages in the group. Fan Yi, this is the 10,000 dragons pearl? Why does it look so ordinary like a luminous pearl? Hanli frowned upon hearing this. The two ancient emperors, Jade said. I can't see anything special about it, but since this thing has created so many powerful giant dragons, it shouldn't be something that we can see through, right? Hanli let out a sigh of relief. Yonglan Pon's waiter. I can't tell either. He should be very powerful. My eyes can only appraise the treasures of the mortal world. I really can't see through these things. No one in the world can betray me. Only the ancestor god can personally appraise such a treasure. We are not strong enough yet, so there's no point in commenting on ourselves. That makes sense. Hanli wholeheartedly agreed. Another 10,000 years from the heavens. Cough cough, it feels like the luminous pearl in my palace. Little friend Feiyu, you should offer this item to the ancestor god and let him appraise it. Ghostly, my intuition tells me that this item should be very special, awkward. I can't see through it either, seeing this. Hanli calculated the time that the heavenly cycle divine concealment would take and offered the item to the ancestor god, without hesitation. At almost the same time, a crisp notification sound rang out in the chat group. Dragon God Realm Event Instance. Li Feiyu obtained the 10,000 Dragons Pearl and changed the trajectory of the Dragon God Realm. He received 500,000 points. Offering the 10,000 Dragons Pearl, he received 800,000 points, a total of 1,300,000 points. Hanli stared at the string of numbers and his breathing gradually became heavier. 1,300,000 points. This 10,000 Dragons Pearl was actually worth 800,000 points. This was different from the items that the South Mystic Celestial Sovereign and Li Feiyu had offered. Those items were given by the ancestor god out of consideration for the other party's intentions. Their value might not be high, but this item was worth 800,000 points. Furthermore, this was something that Han Li easily obtained. 800,000 points meant that the value of this 10,000 Dragon's Pearl was extremely high. What was even more frightening was that it was worth 500,000 points and changed the trajectory of the Dragon God realm. After obtaining the 10,000 Dragon's Pearl, these huge dragons would lose their source of strength. I wonder how angry the Dragon Monarch would be? I'm leaving. Han Li was extremely excited. This 10,000 Dragon's Pearl was indeed powerful. It was actually worth so many points. Han Li didn't say anything else and used the remaining time of the talisman to disappear. I'm rich. At this moment, the group was also boiling with excitement. Fan Yi, 6666, this is too strong. Is this what luck is? Brother Feiyu is the weakest on our side. But this 1,300,000 points, I feel that it will be difficult for us. She Ancient Emperor Jade, we can't compare. It seems that Brother Feiyu will definitely be the first in the points ranking. He should have returned to his world by now. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's Worker, 1,300,000 points. The Ancestor God is so generous. People can't turn their backs on me. I led the army and fought so hard to open a path of blood. Now, I barely managed to accumulate a few 100,000 points. This guy just moved a little and got 1,300,000 points. Everyone could almost see the corner of his mouth twitching. Ghostly. I feel that it's all right. As long as I'm content, another 10,000 years from the heavens. Well said, as long as you're content. A mere 1,300,000 points. It's fine. It's fine. F***CK, soldiers of the Great Qin Empire, follow me and kill. Everyone. They were probably a bit agitated. Everyone in the group was in high spirits. Ancestral realm. Master, how many points did you give this time? Aren't you going to bleed a lot? Yan Mengyao asked in a low voice. Bleed a lot? Wang Feng was dumbfounded. To think that you're the heavenly Tao. Let me tell you, in any event, the one who earns the most money is never the players involved. It's the mastermind behind the event. Bleed a lot? Wang Feng held the 10,000 Dragon's Pearl in his hand and smiled faintly. It's just that you don't know about this item. Isn't this an item from the Dragon God realm? Yan Mengyao asked. No matter how powerful it is, it's useless to you, Master. I scanned this pearl and sensed it. The structure of the laws inside is only effective for the dragon race. But Master doesn't need this item to strengthen the dragons you created in the ancestral realm. Then what use does it have for you, Master? Yan Mengyao was still very curious. FPZW. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.